What's up, guys? JV Gaming here with my man, MSU Fanatic. What's up, MSU?
Yo, what is up, JV? How are you feeling good about this, man?
I'm a little nervous, but a little happy, man. It's a long time coming.
A
We've been
little
talking
happy.
about this for a while.
I'm a lot happy, man. All we do is
Yeah.
talk sports for the next 2 hours. I have some milk right here that I'm gonna be drinking, and I'm feeling.
Show.
I'm like Jim
Show.
Harbaugh. I'm just Jim Harbaugh. I'm just gonna wash down a meaty steak with some beautiful milk. It's gonna be a good time. I'm looking forward to it.
You're gonna show the milk per usual or no milk show? Let me see the milk.
You want to see the milk? We got the
Let me
milk
see it.
right here.
Oh, there it
It's
is.
in a tall glass for our folks on the radio right now or on mobile on the website. It's going to be delicious. I'm looking forward to it all night.
All right, guys. So as you know, we are the Real Take. Today is October 13th, 2016. For those of you who will be listening on podcast tomorrow, we're also simulcasting on Twitch, as MSU said. And I also want to give a special shout out to Scorespace for giving us this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Squarespace. We're
Absolutely.
This is a great opportunity. We're really looking forward to this. We got all the real takes, all for the next 2 hours. It's going to be a great time.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So let's go ahead and just get it rolling, right? Let's just start shooting at the hip, per se. So I'm Josh, JV Gaming. Most of you guys know me from Twitch, but for those of you who do not know me, my name is Josh Vargo, 26 years old, Cleveland, Ohio. Huge sports fan, coming off of our LeBron James victory, as you can see behind me, for those of you who are on Twitch. Sitting on my high horse, waiting for the Cleveland Indians to spank the Toronto Blue Jays tomorrow.
You really think it's going to be a spanking?
No, absolutely not. I think it's going to be like a 3-1 game. Not many people are expecting that, but I think Toronto's underrated pitching. Corey Kluber on the mound with our bullpen. I think it's going to be. I would take the under if I was betting.
Is it Marco Estrada versus Corey Kluber tomorrow?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It's going to be a great matchup. I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be very good.
Absolutely. So go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, man.
Yo, what's up, guys? So MSU Fanatic. I was born and raised in suburban Detroit, not in Detroit, suburban Detroit, where the nice folks are. I am 28 years old. I've been streaming on Twitch for probably like the last 4 months or so. Huge diehard Michigan State guy. Not a huge pro sports guy. I don't have the same affiliation as I do for everything else that's as far as Michigan State stuff is concerned. Just really looking forward to this. Happy. Right now, I have a Demaryius Thomas goose egg on the board right now through the Thursday night game. So hopefully that will change and my mood will just continue to climb throughout this next 2 hours with you guys. But happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And yeah, JV, this is going to be great, man.
It's going to be a good time. And as you guys can see at the bottom here, we will be taking call-ins later. Most of them will be hopefully during the whole fantasy football segment we have in store. And as you can see at the bottom, call-in number 646-558-8656. And then you're going to go ahead and want to enter in the ID code 605-977-832. All of this can be found on scorespace.org, guys. So if you go to their homepage, you'll see us. You'll see a visual of us for those of you who are on Twitch. Go ahead and make the jump over to Scorespace. Say what's up to everybody in the chat. Well, let's get it rolling here. Let's get into this little first segment we got.
Yeah, JV, I mean, open it up, man. I mean, you're pumped for tomorrow. First game of the ALCS. We got Toronto Blue Jays coming against the Cleveland Indians. I mean, just what's your thoughts? How are you feeling about this? I know you had a great time against the Red Sox. You swept them. Absolutely no one picked you. I have always been in a position being a Michigan State guy, always being disrespected, always having the chip on their shoulder. I know that you're just ready to just set it off and tell the world straight of what exactly it means to be from Cleveland and what it means to have the ALCS coming home.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal here in Cleveland. I feel like, you know, we're on a little bit of a high horse here in Cleveland, especially coming off the Cavs win down 3-1. Nobody really giving us a chance. Coming back, winning that, and then you know, facing up against Boston, and you know, especially, you know, via Twitch, I'm getting heck from everybody. You know, Boston, you know, they're gonna sweep the Tribe. There's no chance. You guys don't have your pitching, and you know, I just got to sit back and just relax and remember we got Tito Francona, you know, managing the team. Great bullpen, right. one of the best bullpens here in the second half, and it's been a fun thing to watch. Timely hitting's really been the key.
Party Annapolis, yeah.
Party Annapolis. I have not gotten any of those shirts, but
really
I think it's a
Party Annapolis shirt. I
No, I don't.
That's
I
not like
don't.
something like if you fly into the Cleveland airport, they just hand those off to. I feel like they should just hand them to people as they walk off, like party
You
nap,
would
party,
you would
what's that?
think. You would
Or
think.
the witness T-shirts.
Well, actually, for those of you guys who don't know, the Party at Napoli T-shirts are a charity item. So every Party at Napoli shirt that is sold goes to a charity, a local. I think it's a children's charity. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But it's pretty cool what he's done. A lot of somebody literally just had a sign one day saying "Party at Napoli's," and 2 days later it turned into a T-shirt. Now it's a huge item.
I mean,
Hot item here in Cleveland.
I think it's awesome personally. I mean, I have no horse in the race, so to speak, but I'm always been kind of an underdog guy growing up, being a part of the Michigan State thing. It's always been us against Michigan, especially in the state of Michigan. It's just like, why would you like Michigan State? You want to like Michigan, but that's not. I always like the underdog. So I'm rooting for the Indians. I honestly think it's going to be an Indians Cubs World Series. You can see I'm rocking the Cubs hat today if you're watching on the simulcast on Twitch. I do live in Chicago. I have been for the past 3 years. I've kind of adopted the Cubs as I'm not a homer fan because I just don't talk about it. I don't, I'm not going to sit there and break my heart over it if they lose, and I'm not going to get so high up if they win. But I'm really hoping for you, for your sake, for your town. I know how much it means to you guys, and as far as your pro sports teams go. It means a lot to you guys. But, it's funny. I was watching today and I saw I didn't actually see after you guys swept the Boston Red Sox. I didn't actually see the disrespect that happened on TBS. I didn't see that until today when I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw one of your local newscasters started commenting about it. Can you, just go into what was it? Explain to viewers who haven't seen it or did see it, tell them, give them kind of what happened, where it led to, and how you're feeling about that. Because I know that just talking to you off the air, you weren't too thrilled about what was going on, how your town was painted, and I can understand that. So let them have it.
So I talked to you about it. I think it was yesterday. I was just like, "Yo, I have the perfect monologue for our first episode." TBS posts a picture or like a little short clip after the Indians, swept Boston, and it was like a "Welcome to Cleveland." Like poster, and it was like the Cuyahoga River.
Yep.
It was on fire
Yep.
when it happened back in like 1969, and it said "Welcome to Cleveland." It had like all the TBS analysts sitting there, like almost looking like
Chicago's
drunk.
burned down twice. Chicago's burned down twice.
Well, so, here's what makes me mad.
Just putting it out there.
The damn river that they had in this picture was some river in like South America. Wasn't even the Cuyahoga River.
Yeah, wasn't it like an oil production that was owned by like the Russians or something?
Yes,
like that?
yes,
yeah.
And
yep.
So totally a wrong picture. Not even a picture of our city, and it was something that happened 69 years ago, or 45 odd years ago. I'm sorry, it happened in 1969, but it happened 45 years ago, and since then, man, the river's just been clean. There's clean enough to inhabit fish. It's just like it's a piece of Cleveland, and for them to just kind of trash us and dog us for some river after coming off of a 3-0 win, I think was a little disrespectful. So it almost felt like it was what did the Boston Red Sox do wrong, or why didn't they do this? It wasn't hey, Cleveland Indians absolutely demolished the Boston Red Sox. I don't think the Boston Red Sox had a lead that entire series.
It happens every single time, regardless of what the sports are, right? You talk up a team, you talk about a college football team all week, all right? A big game this weekend, right? We got Tennessee, Alabama. I guarantee you, Tennessee finds a way to win the ball game.
I agree.
Alabama wasn't that good. No, Alabama lost a bunch of players last year. They got a freshman quarterback. Not that good.
What didn't Jalen Hurt do? Not what did Tennessee do?
I don't understand it. It happens every single time. And being a Michigan State guy, we beat Michigan. Michigan's not that good. We beat Ohio State. Ohio State's not that good. Beat Wisconsin. Not that good. Okay? Just give the team that showed up to play credit. Unless something absolutely crazy happened, like the punt play, which obviously, yes, was very, very lucky against U of M last year. Okay? But at the same time, Jim Harbaugh decided to have gunners on a play in which we had no returner back. Okay? Jim Harbaugh might be a great football coach, maybe the greatest football coach of all time, but you know what? Don't fault him for lining up guys as a gunner when they have no one back to return the punt. Okay?
I agree.
But
it's little things like that that the average
credit.
people does. Exactly. I agree.
Give the team credit that won the ball game. I'm so tired of it coming on Monday morning quarterback and we're going, oh man, did you guys see that? I guess they're not that good. Like, are you kidding me? That's a joke. That is an absolute joke. So
Exactly.
congratulations to
Any
Cleveland. You earned the victory. It was, I mean, Cody Allen was a little shook at the end of the last game, but you guys pulled it out. You beat him. You know, honestly, I was not expecting that. I thought it was going to be a 5-game series. I thought it was going to be tooth and nail. I thought Boston had the entire offensive lineup. I mean, we got Betts, Bogarts, Ortiz in the last time going through it. We got Dustin Pedroia. I mean, you have a lineup. And honestly, outside of, big baseball fans, how many players can you really name for Cleveland, right?
Exactly. No, I agree. And I think the difference here is I compared the Indians to last year's Kansas City Royals. They're a baseball team, not fully loaded offensively with star power. They run the bases well. They, timely hitting, and it really comes down to just being able to get 5 innings. I mean, last year, who could you name out of the starting pitching lineup for Kansas City? It was like Chris Young, Johnny Cueto, who was absolute garbage until the World Series, and whoever else you want to throw in there for the third starter.
The only reason,
But
the only reason
their
I
bullpen,
know
man, it was just the bullpen.
That Ben Zobrist is on the Cubs. The only reason I know that he was on Kansas City is because he's on the Cubs this year. That's all. That's the only reason I know that.
Right. When I can't tell you the last time a team full of offensive studs just hit home runs all the way through the World Series to win a World Series. It just doesn't work like that. That's just not how baseball is, and it's one of the reasons why I love baseball. You need 25 baseball players to win the game, and not a 1 through 9 powerhouse lineup. It takes a little bit more than that, and Tito knows that. And I think Tito's the best living manager in maybe any sport as of right now, except for maybe Coach Popovich. Just look at what he's done in the last decade. Winning 3 rings with Boston, and then coming here and potentially taking us to a World Series.
Probably a good topic for another time, but I agree on that. But there's definitely a couple coaches out there that could probably be in the same discussion as one of the best overall managers, regardless of sport right now. But like I said, congratulations to Cleveland. I'm looking forward to the ALCS. We have ALCS and NLCS predictions coming up later on in the show. But
yes, sir.
Why don't we we'll just kind of push this to a different conversation and talk about the NFL. The NFL is obviously huge right now. I still say we just started. We're 5 weeks in, right?
Easy for you to say. You're a Cleveland fan. You're ready for the season to be over with. It's like, oh my God, is it over yet?
This is the benefit of when I don't have a pro sports team to root for. I just have a fantasy sports team to root for because I only like individual players, right?
It's been my life for 15 years.
But let's talk about this. I want to talk about quarterbacks. I want to talk about quarterback play. I want to talk about the rookie quarterbacks that are doing extremely well this year in Dak Prescott and Trevor Siemian and obviously Carson Wentz. I want to talk about those guys. And I want to talk about why drafting a quarterback in the first round is the dumbest thing you can do for your franchise.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
I want to talk about this, okay? All right. Let's just look. I want to go back to 2005, okay? 2005, and just go and start reading off players that have actually done something in the NFL as a quarterback, okay? 2005 was Aaron Rodgers' draft class, okay? Arguably one of the best quarterbacks, is probably going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Fantastic pick. Went number 24, okay? I don't know if any of you guys remember, but him sitting in the green room, having the cameras pan to him every 10 seconds, saying, is he going to get drafted? What's going on? Okay, honestly, the 2005 NFL draft was probably the first draft that I really got serious about understanding sports and trying to really, do what we're doing right now and talk about sports at a high level, okay? I actually thought as a 17-year-old kid that Aaron Rodgers was a better quarterback prospect than Alex Smith, okay? And what were some of the slights that they had on him? Was that Aaron Rodgers was too rigid, that he held the ball too high in the pocket, okay? Just a joke. Now let's talk about all the other quarterbacks in that draft. We have Charlie Fry, Jason Campbell, who started a lot of games for the Redskins, never had talent around him. Could have been something, but I'm pretty sure it's out of the league right now.
He had the tools, he just didn't have the head. That's what it was.
We have Charlie Fry. We have Andrew Walter. Anyone? David Quinn? Anyone? Okay. Stefan LaFours? Anyone? Dan Orlovsky, who's most famous for running out of the back of the end zone and getting himself a safety. Okay. And then we have Derek Anderson in the 6th round, who's still on a team, who obviously didn't have a great Monday Night Football game. All right, but is still a quality backup and is still hanging around. Okay, so let me see, I want to count this up real quick. We have 3, 6, 9, 12. We have 14 quarterbacks taken in 2005, and legitimately 2 of them are still doing something in our actual starters. The rest of them didn't see a lick, okay? And this is just where it begins. That's just 2005. 2006, Vince Young, Matt Leinart, Jay Cutler, all in the top 12, okay? All in the top 12. I mean, I don't even know where to start. Vince Young, obviously, great rookie season. Everyone knew that wasn't going to be, you can't play the style of quarterback that he is good at and be successful in the NFL. We've proven it over and over with all these
off the field issues too.
Off the field issues, couldn't stay away from Chick-fil-A. I mean, not like anyone can, but let's be real. All right. We have Jay Cutler, who is he on the outs now? I mean, we'll talk about this later probably. These guys were successful, but then if you look at the rest of them, I mean, there's no one good. There's no one good in here, okay? The next year, Jamarcus Russell, Brady Quinn in the first round. Year after that, we have Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco. Okay, Matt Ryan, he's finally actually looks like he may actually be elite, right? But jury's still out on that, right? Well, then we have, after Matt Ryan, we have Joe Flacco, obviously Super Bowl champion, but probably people would give him the Eli Manning kind of crux.
Right.
So
perfect comparison.
The team built him, and the team was better, right? So that's kind of the thing. So the next season after that, we have Matthew Stafford, Mark Sanchez, Josh Freeman went in the top 20. Josh Freeman, guys. Josh Freeman. Just think about it. Josh Freeman. I heard an NFL analyst say that Josh Freeman couldn't even compete in the CFL. Okay. The second round, we have Pat White. You guys remember Pat White? Pat White with Noel Devine running that spread option attack at West Virginia. Okay. With Rich Rod before he went to U of M. Okay. That was some electric stuff. Can't play quarterback in the NFL, but somehow got drafted in the second round. Okay. Not all these guys have fallen. The quarterback position is inarguably the hardest position and most important position in any single sports, regardless of basketball, football, baseball. It is absolutely the creme de la creme, the crux, the linchpin that makes your team go. Okay, you need to absolutely have a quarterback. But my argument is that make sure the guy that you're taking is talented. Make sure the guy that you're taking is not just being drafted in the first round on a de facto basis because, hey, there's no one else we can take in the first round. There's no one else here, but you know what? We need a quarterback. Why not? 2011 is a perfect indication of that. Okay, Jake Locker at number 8, Blaine Gabbert at number 10, Christian Ponder at number 12. Okay, Cam Newton went number 1 overall. He's doing pretty well right now, but all the rest of those guys got pushed up because we were like, well, we need a quarterback. Let's scramble and just draft one. Okay, this isn't Madden. Okay, you're not running out on the clock. You don't have to just grab a quarterback and say, that's it. We're going to build our franchise around him. We're going to see what happens. Okay.
You also have months to prepare, absolutely months to prepare. And you would think that, especially with these guys with the off the field issues, you would think that somehow they would be known. I've heard on the radio that some teams actually hire FBI sort of background investigators to scoop into these guys' life, to figure out what they do off the field, what they do on the field, who they're talking to, the whole 9 yards. And for some reason, how do the Cleveland Browns, for instance, how do they not know that Johnny Manziel either has a drug problem, can't stay away from alcohol, absolutely probably partied the night before game days?
I mean, come on,
I mean, the guy's had his life handed to him since he was about 3 years old, and for some reason, these college scouts, these pro scouts, they cannot figure out little tidbits like that.
And the thing is, he was drafted number 22 overall in 2014. Okay.
Over Carr and Bridgewater.
And he's already out of the league. He's already out. You've invested a first-round draft pick. Now, to me, if you're a first-round draft pick, okay, needs to be a guy. I don't care. He doesn't need to be a Pro Bowler. He needs to be a guy that's going to be in the league for the next 6 to 8 years as depth. Okay, I know that this isn't recruiting. This isn't the NCAA. You can't just stack talent, but you need to have a guy in the first round that is going to be able to produce at some level for the next 6 to 10 years. Okay. That is your goal as a GM, and that is your goal as an owner, is to get a guy in the first round that can produce. Okay. When you miss so badly that your
it
first
sets you back
round
so bad
is out of the league in 2 years, I don't even know how does that happen?
If you look at the Cleveland Browns, their first-round draft picks in the last decade, there was about 3 to 4 active players in the last decade of first-round picks. And a lot of those years, their first-round picks, they've had multiple first-round picks. So we'll say they've had 15 first-round picks in the last decade. There's less than 5 of those players who are still in the league.
And I know that there would be people out there saying, well, MSU, okay, just drafting overall is difficult. I completely agree. Drafting overall is a complete cluster. You have no idea what you're really going to get at the end of the day. But you know what? My whole philosophy is if he's not worth it there, don't take him. Take a guy that's worth it. I've always been under the impression that you should always try and take the best player available, regardless of need, unless
Right.
it's such a glaring need, like you're looking at the Indianapolis Colts right now, who 2 years ago decided to draft Philip Dorsett in the first round. Okay, like the Colts needed another receiver to catch the ball. Okay,
Small receiver.
like someone give that man someone to block for him. Okay,
Right.
please. The guy is running around like he's a tackling dummy behind.
He might be the most willing and capable quarterback in the NFL when it comes to tools and the way he plays the game, but he just can't be protected. He literally can't be protected.
He can't be protected, and guess what? That falls on ownership. That falls on the GMs. That falls on the guys that are picking the players. That they need to understand. Hey, does he actually have the talent to be worth it to be drafted? That's why I'm very concerned for next year as a fan of sports and period, that the Cleveland Browns are going to screw it up next year, because right now, and I haven't done any film study, I haven't looked at anybody, I haven't gone into the stats. I don't know if Deshaun Watson's worth a number one overall pick.
Coming into the year, that was Cleveland's guy, and I'll tell you right now, listening to sports radio and talking to many people, that he is no longer the guy everybody wants around here. I think that the Cleveland Browns and the fans of the organization would tell you with the first overall pick, quarterback is not a glaring need. If you can get another year out of Josh McCown, you can get some kind of production out of RG3, Cody Kessler. Go out there and find somebody, but don't reach on your quarterback just because you need to find your franchise quarterback, like you said. You got 2 first-round picks this year. Find some talent. Put some talent on the field.
It cannot be a Johnny Manziel and Justin Gilbert all over again. Okay, it cannot be that, because if it is, you just set yourself back another 5 years.
All right, Carvius, Mingo. I can go on and on about Cleveland Browns first-round picks.
Exactly why the Patriots are so good. This is exactly why. They have the 32nd pick in the draft every single year. And you know what? Every single year that happens, they're like, hey, great. Who got the best value out of their first-round pick? The New England Patriots did. Okay, every single freaking
year.
Every year, they just drafted so well. They got value everywhere, and they worked the draft, and then they stockpiled draft picks for the future.
And they just plug in. I mean, as soon as it's a contract year, big name player for the Patriots, Bill Belichick will let him go, and they'll just plug in. They'll plug a draft pick in, they'll plug a free agent in, and they'll get the job done. And it's incredible.
And we have a running joke at work. Anytime a guy gets cut, we're just like, as soon as he goes to the Patriots, I'm picking him up in fantasy. I don't care if he plays offensive line. I don't care if he plays defensive line. I don't care if he's the special teams coach. I'm going to pick him up on fantasy because you know what? He's going to score 20 points next week. Okay. And he's probably going to be fitting in there. And that goes along the lines of there's not many players that work outside of schemes. There's very few players that are so talented that regardless of the scheme that they're in, that they can dominate a football game. Okay, I think you can count them on a couple of hands. Aaron Rodgers is one that comes to mind. Tom Brady's another that comes to mind. Okay, but at the end of the day, if the GM, if the coach, if the strategy is wrong for those players, they are not going to be able to overwhelm with talent, and they're going to fail, and they're going to be put in a position to fail, and they're going to be out of the league in 3 years. Okay. So it's probably another topic for another time, but these guys need to be put in positions that schemes work the best for. Okay.
Right. And that's become a huge problem I see with these teams who are drafting in the top 10 every year. Instead of adding players who fit their scheme, they're drafting players and trying to turn them into something that they're not.
Yep.
And that's an issue.
100%. And speaking of talent, JV, let's just dive right in. We're sticking with the NFL for right now.
I like it.
Let's dive right into one of the most divisive players in the NFL right now.
Love to hate him.
Polarizing player, Odell Beckham Jr. Okay. JV, I mean, I think you and I have a fairly similar take on Odell Beckham Jr., but why don't you start us off here? What are your thoughts initially? The main topic is we're talking about talent when it meets off the field drama. Just give me your opinion overall. I mean, we saw this past week against the Packers, finally scores his first touchdown of the year. Okay, goes and hugs the goalpost, kisses the goalpost. Okay, tell me, what are you thinking about this last 5 weeks with him throwing temper tantrums, Eli calling him out in the media, getting like some subterfuge texts, like Twitter, and McAdoo talking about him, Francesca on New York radios calling Ben McAdoo out about him. I just spin it. Tell me what's going on. What do you think about Odell Beckham?
Well, when I came out to Chicago last weekend, this is our number one take. Like, we were just about the Odell Beckham thing, and honestly, I don't think he's necessarily getting upset with his teammates or with Ben McAdoo, who I know you and I both love. Ben McAdoo, the
might not after the season, that's for sure.
Yeah, the porn producer lookalike. I don't think he's getting mad at the scheme. I just think he is the ultimate competitor. Which, who isn't? You're playing at that high of a level. You know, you're coming off. You know, you're the Madden cover athlete. You're putting up historic numbers.
You got head and shoulders ads.
Right. You want to win games, man, and I think that's what it comes down to. He's being the ultimate competitor. But, you know, there's 3 things, and I was thinking about this earlier. 3 things you got to learn when you're in the NFL, especially when you're kind of the role model type player, especially at the position he's at, a skill position player. You need to learn how to win like a pro. You need to learn how to lose like a pro, and you got to learn how to act like a pro. And all 3 of those he's lacking. He'll make a huge play. He'll showboat. Okay, I get that. But when you are getting beat on the offensive side of the ball and you are just things aren't working for you, you need to lose like a pro. You have to,
like a loser.
Yeah, you have to lose like a pro, man.
Yeah.
The swinging his helmet at the field goal post. I mean, if I have never seen karma work so fast in my life, when he smacked that field goal net and it came back and hit him, I was like, you know what? Good. He deserved that.
Why do men do that? Why do we punch stuff when we get upset? I don't know.
If I can move my camera, I have a hole in my door because of a game I lost in MLB The Show.
What do we do? Why do we do that? We punch
it's
walls,
testosterone.
We punch things. We punch other people. Why do we do that?
It's a bad thing. It's a bad thing. I want to talk about what Odell Beckham's doing on the field here. Okay, we had this talk. I don't know whose stream we were in. We're talking about top 3 wide receivers, and me and you were like Julio Jones over ODB 10 times out of 10.
Yep. I agree.
Julio Jones is what, going to see 200 targets this year?
Oh,
give or take
230. I'm right. Assuming. Let me pull. I'll pull up his targets while you keep talking, but I will
right
pull up what he's projected right now. So
last week he did grab a touch. He did find the end zone, but I think ODB was targeted 4 times. 4 times last week, and he found the end zone. I thought he found the end zone, but right here I'm showing that he did not.
Last week he scored on the.
Oh, he did.
He reviewed it. He got his foot down. It was actually a nice catch. He jumped up. It was a jump ball.
He had 12 targets last week, so he's coming off a season high 12 targets against Green Bay.
Yep.
He had his 1 touchdown, but he's just not being targeted as much either. Yep. And like I said, I don't think he's frustrated with his teammates, his coach, the organization. I think he is just he's losing badly. He's just taking it. He's losing he's not losing like a pro. But I don't think it helps. He's got Victor Cruz who's back, who's seeing catches or seeing targets. Yep. Sterling Shepard, who's been great for New York in the slot role. He's taking away touches as well. Eli Manning, it's not the ODB show right now. It's not just he's going to go off every single week. Eli Manning and Ben McAdoo are spreading the ball around, which they should. You got to do what's best for the team. You don't need to sit here and satisfy your number 1 target because of the money he's making, the show he puts on. It's just he needs to learn how to lose like a pro, and I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and honestly, right now the similarities between Odell Beckham last year and Odell Beckham this year. The only difference between the first 5 games is the fact that he scored more touchdowns last year. Okay.
Right.
If you look at the stat line, and I just looked at Julio's numbers, and so he's went 8 targets, 5 targets, 7 targets, 15 targets. That was a 300-yard game, and then 6 targets. Okay. Your number 1 wide receiver should be getting anywhere between 7 to 10 targets a game if you can. And usually it's around 30% of the target share. Okay. That's typically what it looks like. Okay. If I go and look at Odell Beckham, from this year to last year. Okay. We got a 4 for 73 game, an 8 for 86 game, a 7 for 121 game, a 3 for 23 game was the bad game against Minnesota, who, if you look at number 1 wide receivers against Minnesota this year, okay,
who doesn't shut them down, right?
They've shut down Calvin Benjamin. They've shut down Odell Beckham Jr. They've shut down every single number one wide receiver. They shut down Jordy Nelson. Okay. They've shut down all the number one receivers. That defense is phenomenal. Okay. And if you go look at this past week, 5 for 56 and a touchdown. Okay. If we go back and we look at the first 5 games last year for Odell Beckham Jr., okay, almost identical. 5 for 44, 7 for 146 and a touchdown. Okay. 7 for 79 and a touchdown. Okay. 5 for 38, 7 for 121 and a touchdown. So through 5 games last year, he had 3 touchdowns. Okay. And he was averaging, quick math in my head, looks like about 80 yards a game, which is exactly what he's at right now. Okay. I have no issues with Odell Beckham. I believe that the talent is obviously still there. He set the record for the most receiving yards in the first 2 seasons. Okay, it was something ridiculous like 2,700 yards.
It's through the roof. Okay. Absolutely crazy.
Talent is there. Do I think he needs to mature a little bit? Of course I do. Okay, he's 23 years old. He's going to learn how to be, like you said, how to lose like a pro, how to win like a pro, how to just
pro
day in and day out. But all it counts is that his emotion when it boils over is not out of frustration because he's not getting the ball, that he's not scoring touchdowns. It's frustration because his team's not good. It's frustration because his team is bad and his team's not winning. He wants his team to win. Okay.
Yep.
Eli Manning, when he first got drafted, right, out of LSU, I was a little bit skeptical about Odell Beckham Jr. because he had a hamstring problem. If you recall, he didn't play for the first 7 games. This guy's hamstrings are made of glass. Like, what's going on? Like,
undersized.
Undersized. Eli Manning came out and said, I've been throwing this guy for the last 5 years. I love this kid. He runs great routes. He has great hands. Super excited to get him on the field. That's why the Giants went out and satisfied their quarterback. All right. They wanted this kid so badly. I have never heard one person say, this kid doesn't work hard. This kid doesn't want to win. That's
not the issue.
Always wants to win. He always wants to do good things. He always just wants to just do what's best for the team. And to me, I can put aside some of the emotional boil over, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing as like Draymond Green. These are how these guys have to act in order to get themselves up and get themselves, a little bit. They have to have a little bit of a screw loose for them to actually overcome some of the innate talent that maybe that their opponent has over them. Okay, but
playing with emotion is not always a bad thing. You want players who play with an emotion. Draymond Green, he is loved by his teammates. Just because he's not loved around the NBA, as long as your teammates love you and you play hard for your teammates, they don't care what kind of emotion you show. You just need to be loved by your teammates, and that's all that matters.
100% agree. 100% agree. And I think we both speak on this is that if he starts hurting the team, of course he needs to figure it out. But this BS about the Giants saying that they're going to go bench him if he has another outburst, they're going to suspend him for 2 games.
Right.
That's the quickest way to get your best player out of town.
He's not complaining about the organization. And one thing here I think is key is Odell Beckham Jr. is not used to losing. He probably never lost in high school. Mm-hmm. He went to LSU, lost a total of probably we'll say 3 to 4 games tops, in that vicinity. Yep. Came into the league, dominated, had a huge rookie year, won more games than they lost. Yep. And he's just not used to it. And he's probably learning how to lose slowly but surely. But like we said, it's just he just needs to lose like a pro, and I think he'll learn how to do so. So I don't think that's an issue.
And it just goes to show you that it's a talent driven league. Okay, if you have talent, which Odell has exceptional talent, right? You are going to get a little bit more of a pass. Okay. Other than a foot soldier that's coming in, that's your 5th string lineman. If he starts throwing antics like that, they're going to go cut you. Okay.
Right.
Whereas if you think it's unfair, if you think it's fair, that is how the NFL works. Okay.
Right. I don't think ODB acts this way if he knows he's not producing and he can't put the numbers up.
We have there's some division in the chat right now up on Twitch simulcast for those of you joining us on the radio or via mobile, talking about, apparently Odell's teammates don't all love his head. I'm sure they don't. I'm sure there's guys that quietly, I don't know if anyone saw the E60 story last night about the 2 Bennett's, Martellus and Michael. Martellus Bennett threw every single person he's ever played with under the bus. Every single person under the bus. Okay. I'm sure there's guys in the locker room right now that don't like what he's doing or don't appreciate the way he acts. But I will say this: there's no guy in that locker room that has the same amount of talent that Odell Beckham has. Okay,
Unquestionably.
unfortunately, that's just how it's going to go, and he's going to be able to get away with a little bit more than the average NFL player. So. Like it or not, they do treat guys differently in the NFL. They do treat talent differently. LeBron can shake off a play from David Blatt. No one's going to care about it. Okay. Timothy Mozgov, that's a different story. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Timothy Mozgov can't go in the locker room and say, we don't like David Blatt. Okay. You're gone. See you later. Get the showers, the perennial showers for life. Okay. You're out of there. Or just go sign a $70 million contract with the LA Lakers. I don't know.
Right. Good for him, though. Good for him. You want to move on to the next topic? Let's move on to the next topic.
Good for him. I'm ready for the next one.
I could talk about NFL all the time. Let's talk about maybe the most surprise team in football right now. And no, I'm not talking about the 1-4 Carolina Panthers. We're going to talk about the. Yeah, that is surprising. But let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings losing their franchise quarterback, most could say at this point, a quarterback coming off of a playoff berth, and then next thing you know, Adrian Peterson goes down with a kind of a fluke injury, and they're sitting here, no first string quarterback. Their Pro Bowl Hall of Fame running back goes down, and everybody's thinking they're done. They go out, pick up Sam Bradford for a first round pick, and I'm sitting here bashing them like, wow, good for the Eagles, applaud. They just got the steal of a lifetime, and then Sam Bradford's got the Minnesota Vikings sitting at 5-0 and probably one of the Super Bowl favorites.
Fleece of a lifetime, right? A fleece. And
everybody can say what they want. Well, that defense is the best in football. Sam Bradford's not turning the ball over. He's finding his way into the end zone. Yep. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to take everything I said about you, Sam Bradford. I apologize. He looks like he has fit in perfectly. He stays healthy. I don't see why they can't win the NFC. I don't see why not.
Oh, of course. They should be the absolute favorites for the NFC side coming out, going into the Super Bowl. Okay. We saw it last year. We saw the blueprint of average to above average quarterback play in Peyton Manning and an elite defense leading you to a championship, right? We saw the exact blueprint. The Denver Broncos put it out on the map for everybody. Okay. I don't really see that big of a difference between
Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl last year with the way he played. You got a defense anybody
with a noodle arm, right?
He couldn't throw the ball 25 yards if he tried.
An absolute noodle, okay? An absolute noodle arm, okay? So, and honestly, Sam Bradford, if I look at the stats right now, I mean, he's doing a good job. I mean, I've been kind of flacking him a little bit for, let's see what happens when they get down by a few scores. Let's see what happens when that running game doesn't produce. Because quite honestly, that offensive line is in trouble. They lost Khalil. Okay, they're all pro. They're all pro center. Okay, they lost Phil Loadholt, which is their offensive tackle. Okay, they're resorting to signing Jake Long. I mean, there's a lot of missing pieces on the offensive line, and somehow they're still able to produce. Okay, now I do think if I'm a Vikings fan, I'm concerned about the offensive line. I'm concerned when I absolutely get nothing from the running game. I think Jerick McKinnon, I think Matt Asiata fill in fine. But it's not Adrian Peterson back there, okay? Regardless if you think Adrian Peterson's done or not, he still was going to get the respect as we saw in the first 2 weeks of the season. He still got the respect of stacking the box.
Right.
Dan Bradford beat you over the top, okay? So I'm still concerned with that with the Vikings. But honestly, if they play defense like they're capable of playing defense every single game, if they get guys like Everson Griffith, if they get guys like Harrison Smith, they get guys like Linval Joseph, those guys are going to dominate every single week in and week out. They got Trey Waynes, they got Xavier Rhodes. I mean, those corners are good. Harrison Smith is by far the best safety in the NFL.
He somehow may be the best safety in the NFL and maybe the most underrated at the same time. Is that possible?
No one knows who Harrison Smith is. Absolutely.
Love him.
Except if you live in Minnesota, you have no idea who Harrison Smith is. And he is one of the best, probably the best all-around safety. He's better than Tyrann Mathieu. I'll put it out there. He's better.
I will say that Tyrann Mathieu has his limitations. He's a ball hawk, but he has his limitations.
He's a ball hawk. And you know what? The knock on Harrison Smith coming out of Notre Dame was that he wasn't going to be able to run to cover. Well, guess what? because you know what I heard on the radio. He basically they asked him, like, Harrison Smith, you're great run support safety. How do you feel about that? He says, well, they don't pay safeties to be run supporters. They pay safeties to cover. Okay.
Right.
So they've figured it out. He's figured it out. I love the team. I love the defense. I think they are by far the favorites in the NFC to make it out of that division, because
And what about that stadium, man? Have you seen that thing?
Looks like a
Egyptian temple. It's beautiful.
Like, Star Wars, on Tatooine with the big walkers. It's a glass one of those. Like,
I need to start visiting some of these places. But let's talk about what they've honestly done on defense.
Yep.
They through 5 games this year, the most points they've given up is 16, and that was to week 1 against Tennessee. At Tennessee on the road, probably trying to wiggle their way through, trying to figure out what's going on. But Tennessee's by far the worst team they have on that schedule.
First week,
then they go to Lambeau and absolutely shut down Aaron Rodgers, giving up a total of 14 points.
It was at Minnesota.
I'm sorry, it was.
Yeah, it was the Monday Night Football game
at Minnesota.
Yep, it was
the opener.
The opener for that stadium in the regular season. Yep. So
then they go to Carolina, who's coming off of a Super Bowl appearance at Carolina, and they give up a total of 10 points to the MVP Cam Newton and that offense, who has Kelvin Benjamin back this year.
And Kelvin Benjamin, I'm pretty sure, was held catchless that game, wasn't he?
He was. I have him in fantasy, and I was not happy about it.
Yep.
Then they play New York, who we know what they're capable of doing on offense any day of the week. Absolutely any day of the week. Shut them down, 10 total points.
Yep.
Then they play Houston. Houston's, okay, they might not have the most explosive offense, but they added guys like Fuller, Lamar Miller. They're playing pretty good ball offensively. With surprisingly, the lack of their play is coming on defense, which nobody would have saw coming. But injuries of J.J. Watt is huge. It might be the biggest loss in the NFL right now.
Yep.
I know the Vikings lost Adrian Peterson. That J.J. Watt loss is huge. A lot of people had Houston as a surprise, maybe a playoff team, a wild card team, and it's just not looking good for them. They gave up a total of 13 points there, and surprisingly, they put 31 on the board.
Yep. They were a wild card team last year, so yeah, a lot of people did have that, especially with the addition of Brock Osweiler. I'm not saying that he's the best quarterback ever, but people thought he was a step up from Brian Hoyer, right? So
and with that defense, they had every intentions of it getting better, and injuries have just decimated them. But they have a test coming up.
Let's talk about the stats, right? We have the Vikings are number 1 in sacks. They're number 1 in takeaways. They're number 4 in opponents' yards per game, and they're number 1 in opponents' points per game. Okay, I don't know. I don't know what else I can say. Incredible, just incredible. So.
They do have a little test coming up, though. At Philly, who's playing really good ball right now, especially at home.
Yep.
So we'll see. We'll kind of see what the offense is all about, because Philly's defense surprisingly has been one of the better defenses in football, which I definitely did not see coming. But Carson Wentz has kind of sparked that team, and everybody's playing, I think, a little bit above what we thought.
Fletcher Cox is probably a top 5 defensive tackle in the league right now. You have Malcolm Jenkins in the back end. You have Brandon Graham as your outside linebacker, who's a very good kind of a hybrid. If he was in a 3-4, a kind of a 3 technique stick,
right? Which was the knock on him. They didn't know if he'd be able to find a real position.
Not really sure what was going on with him. So
like a Mingo, oversized Mingo.
So that defense, they got it thrown around on them a little over the weekend from the Lions. But I think the Lions, honestly, I think that in that game they gave up like 21 points in the first half, and then they only gave up 3 in the second. So
right, yeah.
I really. I really do like the Eagles a lot too. But
which is Sam. I mean, that's your boy from Georgia, Detroit's quarterback, Stafford.
Yep.
Put up 28 points in a quarter, and he can be shut out for 6 straight games. It's just how he plays.
Yep, exactly. But I mean, take hats off to the Vikings, really, and to what really Mike Zimmer has been able to do and build with such a horrendous injury at the beginning to your franchise quarterback, and to basically act like nothing's happened, and quite frankly, and then losing your franchise running back too. So. Right. Not many.
It'd be interesting to see, man, if they make the playoffs and make a little bit of a run, and then Teddy Bridgewater comes back, and Sam Bradford almost had them. Let's say they go to the Super Bowl, they're in a little bit of a predicament. What do you do? But I guess we can save that topic for then.
Well, I mean, I think that leads right into our next topic, really, which is the Dak versus Tony Romo, right?
Right.
What happens when the guy that you're replacing plays better than you were expecting? and you have a guy that's elite that could, and I'm not saying that Teddy Bridgewater or Tony Romo are elite just yet, but what do you do in that predicament? What do you do in that predicament? So
I think me and you have the same take on the whole Dak Prescott Tony Romo ordeal. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree with us, but Tony Romo comes back, he's healthy, he's ready to go. I don't see how you don't give him the football, especially when it's crunch time. It's hard. I guess you could kind of flip a coin on the whole process, but Tony Romo, when healthy with an offensive line who's playing well,
yep.
Top 5 quarterbacks in football.
I wrote down some statistics from 2 years ago, from when he was his last good year with DeMarco Murray, when that team really had a lot of talent, but the defense just let them down all the time. He had 39 touchdowns. He led the league in completion percentage at 69.4%. Okay, 2 years ago. I mean, that's some great numbers, and I understand that he has been roughly a 500 quarterback his entire career. But my argument to putting Tony Romo back in is we haven't seen him with his best team, which is this year, right? And those of you that think that if Dak can do it, why can't Tony Romo can do it? And I get the argument that don't mess up a good thing, yada, yada, yada. But let's be real. Is anyone going to flinch in that locker room if they put Tony Romo back in? I mean,
probably not.
Yeah, well, I mean, is anyone going to?
It's been his team for the last 7 years.
I can see it. If a locker room would revolt if, say, the veteran isn't playing well or gets hurt halfway through the season, the young guy comes in, kind of like an RG3 versus Kirk Cousins situation, right? The young guy kind of comes in, does well, then it's like, what should you do? Should we bring the guy back in? Should we not bring the guy back in? I'm not sure. This is totally different than that. This is a rookie quarterback, right? That was drafted in the 4th round. Okay, no one thought
nobody saw this coming.
Okay, no one was expecting anything out of Dak Prescott. Tony Romo got hurt and stepped in, and he's done an admirable job. Obviously, hasn't turned the football over. Has done an okay job with pushing the ball down the field.
And they're making it really, really easy on him. I mean, he's short routes, nice quick short routes. He's only having to see half the field, maybe 1 or 2 check downs in order to get the ball out. I mean, they're not asking him to do like so much to where it's just, I'm not taking it all. But when I see Dak Prescott play, he's just doing enough.
I'm also not taking away when Tony Romo plays. But at the same time, I've seen Tony Romo do it for a lot longer. Okay,
right.
I've seen Tony Romo be the guy. I've seen him be able to lead teams that probably weren't very good to victories. Okay. So, I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of people have said, well, he's just going to get hurt again. Okay. He's going to get hurt again. That's fine. If he gets hurt again, you know what you have in Dak Prescott, right? You know what you have. There's a whole reason why the Cowboys were like, 2-30 or some crazy number when they weren't able to start Tony Romo in the Romo era. There's a reason why Tony Romo was really the heart and soul of that Cowboys team, and the reason why I think that he should be put back in when he is healthy enough to go. Whether it's in 2 weeks from now after the bye week, whether it's in 3 weeks, I think you give him a shot to do it better, right? Because I think you're going to get. He's going to do exactly what Dak Prescott's been doing, but I think he's going to do it better. So.
Down 6 in the 4th quarter, NFC Championship game. I want Tony Romo behind center over the rookie who's, I don't want to say unproven, but who's never been in a situation like that,
and
especially if it's on the road.
Going to be a time potentially this weekend at Lambeau Field going against Green Bay. What's Dak going to do in a hostile environment? What's going to happen? So I'm very much looking forward to the Dallas Green Bay game this weekend, because I want to see what's going to happen in terms of that offense. I think Aaron Rodgers is on the precipice, on the cusp of just going absolutely crazy. I think they're on the cusp of just kicking that offense into high gear, throwing all over everybody, and you're going to have to go chase points. Okay, so we'll see what happens this week. I think the picture will become clear. You know what's hilarious is that the recency bias will, if Dak Prescott has a bad game this weekend, everyone will completely forget the first 5, and everyone will be like, done, Romo's in. Okay, and it's funny seeing kind of the talking heads this week on ESPN, on NFL Network, talk about it started off, oh, Romo's definitely getting his job back. Now it seems like the in vogue thing is to say Dak Prescott's getting the job back, or
Right.
Prescott's keeping the job, I should say, right? So I'm very interested to see what happens when we get that first bad game, that first bad throw, the first really just bad series.
First little taste of panic.
So I want to see what happens, and we still haven't seen that with Carson Wentz yet. So
no, that's another one where we can get into, which you could talk about for days. But let's switch topics here. Let's move on. We're running a little bit behind schedule, but really there is no schedule. We got another hour or so left. But let's talk a little bit of baseball and playoff baseball, ALCS predictions, and maybe a preview of what we might see here in the NLCS. What do you think is going to happen as far as the rest of this NL?
The NLCS. Well, let me see here. What's the score of the NL game right now? It's 1-0 right now, Washington. But it looks like there's men on first and second for the Dodgers with one out. So I mean, that game's a complete toss up. Who knows what's going to happen? As far as the ALCS set, since we have the set teams with that, okay, I think it's going to be a great series. Okay, first off, I think you have the two best teams in the AL facing off right now at this time. Okay.
As a Cubs fan, and I don't mean to cut you off, as a Cubs fan, would you rather see the Dodgers or would you rather see Washington?
Personally, I'd rather see Nationals, 100%, because you don't have to face Strasburg. You don't have to face Wilson Ramos, okay, who was an absolute treasure of a catcher this year, right? You don't have to face those two guys. Harper is not himself. He's got neck.
That offense in Washington is par at best. They have not done well here down the stretch.
Yep. You have Daniel Murphy, who is dealing with injuries, but has played really, really well through the stretch here. But
not as good as last year, but he's playing right.
Yeah, but he's playing better. I mean, who could top what he did last year?
No, I know.
But listen, I want to play the Nationals because for all of those reasons, and you don't have to make this Illinois to LA trip. All right. I don't want to do the long flight,
which nobody talks about. That's a big deal, especially for that team who has home field. That's a big deal.
I do not, and I do not want the Cubs to have to do the long trip. I want them to go to the Eastern time zone. They don't need to be going all the way out to California for a potential, game 6 at some point, or whatever. I don't want them to have to do that flight. So and all of those things kind of, to me, I think the Dodgers offense is better overall, right, in terms of just a better level of caliber of player, and I think that their bullpen is slightly better, but at the end of the day, I'd much rather see the Nationals at this point, because I just don't think that their starting pitchers don't scare me. I know Tanner Roark's pitching well. I know Gio Gonzalez, right, is pitching well.
Scherzer's rolling, but he's got bases loaded right now in the first. Scherzer crunch time is so much different than Scherzer in the regular season. He's just got that it factor. It almost reminds me of like Bumgarner in the playoffs. He just plays well enough to be an ace, and then when it's crunch time, man, he's just got that different look in his eye. 100%. He's probably the only guy who scares me in Washington comparative. Going to LA, and then they could throw one of 5 starters at you who all give you something different.
Yep,
what I mean?
Exactly, and that's kind of my thing. But I think as a Cubs, it's very, talking to guys in Chicago, it's very polarized in terms of who they want to play. And at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters, because I do think the Cubs are the cream of the crop this year, and on paper, they have the best team overall.
And it's scary because that farm system is still top 5 in baseball, and it's just going to continue to get better. So
I at that point, I don't think it matters too much, because I think the Cubs should still be favored, regardless if it's the Nationals, regardless if it's the Dodgers. But talk about for you the ALCS with the first game starting tomorrow. I'm super excited about it because I feel like both these teams haven't played in a week,
right. And I love it. I love that the Toronto Blue Jays have 4 days off to cool off those bats. They were seeing the ball like it was almost a beach ball. It seemed like, I mean, when they were hitting it, it was going directly over the fence. They were not missing fastballs. But I think the 4-day layoff combined with coming to Cleveland, hostile environment, combined with having to face Kluber, who doesn't throw a straight pitch at all. He does not throw a single straight pitch. He's got 5 pitches in his arsenal that are just killer. And I honestly think that if I think the Indians are going to win Game 1, and if they do win Game 1, I think that pretty much sets the tone. I think they will win the series. But what scares me is if Toronto comes in here and they're still hot, and they're hitting the ball, and they get to Kluber early, and then we have to expose. We have to start throwing bullpen players out there earlier than expected. Yep. Which kind of which can ride over and continue into Game 2 to where our bullpen's tired. Then I'm a little bit of a panic. But if Kluber gives us 6 solid innings, I would predict that we would win the ball game, and I'm not 100% sold on that Toronto bullpen. And I know Ozuna's dealing with something. There's something going on with Ozuna. I don't trust Jason Grilli. There's just players in the bullpen I do not trust. And I think that's what it really comes down to. I don't think that the Blue Jays have a terribly head and shoulders better offense than the Cleveland Indians. The Cleveland Indians scored more runs than them this year. A lot of people would never guess that. And everybody could say, like, well, the Blue Jays were dealing with injuries. And, so were the Cleveland Indians. The Cleveland Indians dealt with probably more injuries in the American League than anybody else who, were in contention. So I think it's going to come down to bullpen play and small ball from about the 6th inning on. I think whoever does that better wins the game, and I think the Indians have the advantage there.
The only thing I think that if I'm a Cleveland Indians fan, that concerns me is what you said is them the middle of the lineup, right? The middle of the lineup for the Blue Jays.
3, 4, 5.
Okay, Encarnacion, Donaldson, Batista. How do you pitch to those guys? How do you understand and figure out what are you going to do with?
And that's what the Indians did a great job of Boston. Okay. Boston's 3, 4, 5 hitters were absolutely shut down.
And you also have to think about the momentum factor of the Jays walking off in the 13th for the wild card for game 163. Okay.
That was beautiful, by the way. If you were watching that live, you, as a baseball fan, that was amazing. You have to love that.
One of the best moments so far in the playoffs this year, outside of the Cubs coming back from 5-2 in the top of the ninth away for
I fell asleep on.
Okay. That was one of the craziest things I've seen so far in the playoffs. But I think there's a lot of momentum, and that's why I think it's good for the Indians with the layoff, just because, those bats, like you said, were just absolutely just
on fire,
dominant. Okay, dominant. I talked to a guy at work, a coworker I was like, "Who do you think is going to win the series, Jays or Rangers?" He said the Rangers without a doubt. Thought they were the better baseball team. I was like, I don't know, man. Jays are hot right now.
Jays are hot. In the past 10 years. It's not always the 1 and 2 seeds.
It's not the best team.
If you get hot at the right time, you have a chance to win the World Series. And, and I know another thing that plays into factor here is Toronto playing in Toronto with that roof closed and playing down in Texas where the ball was just absolutely flying.
Yep.
They're going to be coming to Cleveland tomorrow where it's going to be 50, 55 degrees,
it's gonna be
8 o'clock at night. It's going to be that warm. And
right now.
Listen, the ball's not going to jump out of the ballpark like everybody thinks it is. The Blue Jays are going at some point have to play some small ball, and I think that's where the Indians have the advantage. I think they run the bases better. They ran the bases better than anybody in the AL. And 1 through 9, the Indians just get it done. There's holes in that Blue Jays lineup. I mean, there are definite holes in that Blue Jays lineup. So if they can just, like I said, if they somehow tame the 3, 4, 5 hitters, I see them winning the series. And if I had to make a prediction right now, I would say 6 games.
Yeah.
Or 2.
You think 6? I'm thinking it's going to be a full 7 games. I think it's going to be an awesome series.
I would love that. Game 7 in Cleveland. That'd be awesome.
I give the slightest of edge right now to the Blue Jays, but that can obviously flip tomorrow depending on what it looks like. These teams are the best 2 teams in the American League right now.
And you're not alone there, man. The national perspective have the Blue Jays running away with it.
And I'll tell you what, it's going to be a phenomenal series. As a baseball person, as a baseball fan, you're not going to want to miss any of these games over the next week, 2 weeks here for the ALCS. I think it's going to be a better series than the NLCS by a head and shoulders. So
deep down, though, don't you want to see a Cubs-Indians World Series? I mean, how awesome would that be for baseball?
I do. I think I'd rather see that. But at the same time, I would rather see that. I would rather see that. But
I think if you're a nitty gritty baseball guy, you want to see the Cubs Indians.
Honestly, if Cleveland somehow has 2 championships in their city at the same time,
kill me.
I mean, are you kidding me? 2 championships for the state of Ohio at the same time. I mean,
meanwhile, we're looking on TBS and they're showing pictures of some burning river that they call the Cuyahoga down in South America.
I mean, rapture me now, bring me to heaven. The world's over. Okay, just melting down. And honestly,
if the Cubs and Indians face off, though, there's no way I can go against the Cubs. It's just the Cubs are a different animal right now. They don't have a hole.
Yep.
They really don't.
Yep,
They
I
got
agree.
guys on the bench who would start on all 30 teams in the MLB.
Yeah,
So
so I think that's a good idea, and I think we've covered a lot so far in this first hour, and I think we're gonna take a small break to let everyone
yes,
digest that. Again, we appreciate everyone here on the simulcast here on Twitch. We appreciate everyone that's listening around on mobile on the Squarespace website. Again, we want to thank a lot of Squarespace for helping us put this on. This is the Real Take. I am MSU Fanatic. You have JB Gaming here. We will be back after this next song. Please enjoy it.
don't go anywhere.
Don't go anywhere. Hey guys, what is going on? MSU Fanatic back with the Real Take presented by Scorespace. Thank you so much, everyone out there that's listening on radio, on scorespace.org, that's on the simulcast on Twitch for Scorespace. Thank you so much for joining us. We're happy to be back from the break. JV, man, how did you like that first hour of the very first episode of the Real Take?
Holy shit, dude. It took me like a solid 2 minutes to be like, start breathing normally,
Yeah, man.
which is awkward because, we do Twitch. I've been semi-successful on Twitch. I
Yeah.
do it like, twice a week,
All
three
the
times a
time,
week,
yeah.
where I just talk to people, but
Yeah.
it's just like, it's a different animal. So I feel good now. I feel like I'm ready to, mess shit up.
Yeah, well, cool. We're looking forward to messing everything up, but honestly, I don't think we can mess up this next topic because there's really nothing to mess up with it, and it's David Ortiz's legacy. Okay, obviously retiring his last game this past week. JV, just give me your perspective on the fact that not only David Ortiz, the best designated hitter ever in the game, him ending his career in Cleveland, or not in Cleveland, but with the Cleveland series. Give me your perspective of what you're going to remember most about the Ortiz, and just give me your perspective as being such a big baseball guy about what David Ortiz has kind of meant to you as a fan.
Well, David Ortiz is one of those dozen players to where, being my age is just kind of like an idolizing figure. Definitely during my, my whole viewership of baseball here in the last 15 years, he's easily the best designated hitter in my mind of all time. A lot of people can argue Edgar Martinez, but Edgar Martinez, I just felt like did not have the clutch factor that David Ortiz did. David, you needed a big hit in the playoffs, and David Ortiz was hitting. You bet your ass that he was going to produce. And I think my most memorable, kind of thing that happened with him was that whole Boston bombing situation where he just took the field.
Yep.
And he kind of stole the show. And as soon as I think of Big Papi and I think of memorable moments, that is the one. And that I never was infatuated and loved Papi because I really just hated Boston for some reason because of the whole 2007 situation. But David Ortiz was the man in my mind. And when he was on that mound saying goodbye to the fans and he had tears in his eyes, as a baseball fan, I was just like, wow, that's it. It didn't hit me. It didn't hit me after the game was done. Fans were chanting Papi, but it hit me then.
Yeah, man, it's really interesting about the legends that have walked away from the game over
late
year, 2 years, right?
Makes you feel old almost, but it's just like,
it's so weird to think that this upcoming NBA season we're not going to have Kobe Bryant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kobe Bryant,
Kevin Garnett,
staple in the NBA since he was the 18-year-old kid, out of Philadelphia. Okay, amazing, right? We have David Ortiz walking away from the game. It's so interesting. Peyton Manning walking away. It's very interesting to see these guys walk away from the game and telling people they're walking away. This is my last year, and then doing it, right? From all I can think of, from my kind of understanding of watching sports from now, I haven't remembered a time where so many big, huge sports icons have walked away from the game and have let everyone know that this is the last one. Okay,
right.
So for me as a guy that, I'll be honest, I this past year was the most I've ever followed baseball. Okay. I was never a big baseball guy growing up.
Proud of you.
Me too. I'm proud of myself. I found it finally. And I was never a huge baseball guy, but you know what? David Ortiz, for me, clutch is the first thing that pops in my mind. The guy hit like 700 in that remarkable their first World Series run. I mean, just remarkable, 700. Okay, in a sport in which it's defined by success as being successful 3 out of 10 times.
Not even 3 out of 10, 2.5 out of 10.
He failed less than what you expect someone to succeed. Okay.
Exactly.
Amazing. Just absolutely incredible. And I think the most thing that I remember, and I'll talk about, I was watching a 30 for 30, which was it was in the Jim Valvano Foundation, the Cancer Awareness Month that's going to be coming up in November, when all the basketball stuff and Jimmy V speech and all this stuff. They were doing a 30 for 30 special with David Ortiz, and they were talking about a young man in Montana who had cancer, a young kid, and his parents had located from the East Coast, from Boston, and the kid just loved Poppy. Just that's all he loved. He loved Poppy. Okay, and they did this Make-A-Wish series for this kid and met Poppy, and you can see a lot of athletes out there that they do a lot of these good things, but you know what, you can tell that it's maybe not their thing. It's not their spotlight to be at the center of attention, and that's okay. Everyone leads by a different example. But you could see when Poppy was talking with this kid that everything else didn't matter. Didn't matter if you got hits in the World Series. Didn't matter if you got hits in the divisional round. Didn't matter if you hit another home run again. He was going to make that kid happy for that day because he knew that he was his hero. And to me, that signifies more than anything on the baseball diamond that he can do, and something that I will appreciate from Big Poppy, and that baseball is really going to miss from not having Poppy around. So
pro sports in general need a lot more guys like that.
Yeah, 100%. So
because a lot of these guys are taken, I don't want to say their fame for almost granted, but they're not looking at it from the other side of the spectrum. It's just like you are in some cases, father figure, role model, and hero, like you said, and a lot of these guys need to. I guess you can learn something from that experience, like with Poppy.
Yep, exactly. And I know that for some guys it's not their thing, and that's okay. I've never thought that pro athletes should be forced into being a role model. If that's not what you want to do, as long as you're behaving yourself, it's fine. You don't need to be in the limelight. But to see a guy like that really understand how much he means to someone, I mean, that gets you, and that's amazing thing. And I hope that David Ortiz will be around the majors and be around as a spokesperson for a very long time, because the game needs that.
Personally, I would hope to God he takes over for Pedro Martinez, if that's not being too mean. That would be the perfect spot for him. And quickly, man, do you think he will ever play baseball again in the major leagues?
Ortiz?
I know a lot of these guys come in and they can't step away. Do you think he's one of those guys with the success he's had? Do you think the Red Sox will put pressure on him to come back?
No.
I guess that's a better question. Do you think they'll pressure him to come back?
No, I don't think so. I think just from hearing the interviews, from all the stuff that I've heard secondhand, obviously I'm not in the locker room. I'm not interviewing the guy. I'm not asking him such poignant questions like, hey, we going to come back? I think he's done. I think he's really done. And it's not because I don't think he can do it. He said himself at the All-Star break that if he had Mike Trout's feet, he would be able to do it. Right. I think the amount of strain and just hardship that his body's taken over the year from stepping in that batter's box every single day in and day out, I think it's just he's a large man, right? Large men break down over time. Okay. They have pain, and I just don't think he can do it anymore. So
MLB Network, Intentional Talk, I think it was, had Tito Francona on. I think it was yesterday, maybe it was the day before. And they asked him what they thought about Poppy and, why is he stepping away after such a successful year? And it's funny that you said the thing about the feet. And the first thing Tito Francona says, his feet hurt.
Yep.
And that's really what it boils down to. I mean, obviously he can still play, but
100%.
He doesn't want to go through. I don't think he wants to endure, the struggle. Would it be worth it for him to play? It might be, but I almost think he's stepping away to do what's best for him. And he's going out on top. He had a huge year.
Yep.
You don't want to go out there, bat 220, 12 bombs, and 58 ribbies, and have to walk away from the game when you could have did it, the way he did. I think he did it perfectly.
And JV, man, we've heard this time and time again from athletes, ubiquitous across all the different sports, right? It's not about playing the game. It's about getting to the game, right? It's about the practices. It's about the off-season training. Poppy, obviously, he looks like a guy that maybe doesn't take care of himself as much, but that dude is strong as hell. Okay,
he's an ox.
He takes care of his body. He takes care of all that stuff. That is a grind. This isn't
162 games, but that doesn't include the
minutes every Tuesday and Thursday. Okay, no way. That is a 6.5 hour. Stretching, going to therapy, going to get your muscles worked out, stretching, And
if you don't play baseball or pro sports, there is so much more that goes on than just the 2.5 hour game you're watching. They start Their work day,
Yep.
game starts at 7 o'clock. They're in the clubhouse by noon, stretching,
Yep. Go and
taking swings, ground balls.
yep.
It's just it's a work day. It's more than just going out there and putting on a show.
It's grind. It's just the grind every single day. And you know what? Those guys, Brett Favre had said it. He said it perfectly. He's like, I can still play. I don't like getting hit, and I don't want to prepare. Okay, that's why these guys walk away from the game. And I can't.
Especially at that age, man, it
Yep.
gets harder and harder. It might not be as hard to play as it is to
Yep.
get your body in game shape.
Yeah,
to keep it in game shape.
I can appreciate it. I can appreciate that just the amount of miles that guy has on his body is exactly why I do not think he's going to be enticed to get back in, because you know what? Although he hits a ball for a living, he's still got to move around the bases. He's still got to prepare every single week.
Right.
I think he's done.
Last question for you, man.
Yep.
Hall of Famer or not?
I think he is.
Now, you know what people are going to tell you, though. Well, if Edgar Martinez isn't a Hall of Famer, how can Papi be? And I'm going to turn that around. And Papi was just he was a figure of Major League Baseball. He was twice the idol to kids. He was on and off the field. I think he was twice the player Edgar Martinez was. And not to mention what he did in the playoffs. And I don't think the Red Sox ever won a World Series without David Papi.
Yeah,
David Ortiz.
I 100% agree. And I'm again not 100%. So Edgar Martinez and the statistics that back it up. I'm not as good at that type of thing in terms of the MLB, because I've literally just started really getting into it this year, so I'm not going to be able to speak on that. But I mean, if I look at like the Basketball Hall of Fame, if you go to the All-Star game 6 times in basketball in the NBA, you're a Hall of Famer. So to me, put the guy in. He's deserving. He understands what's going to happen. He's a champion. He's a clutch guy. He's in by my definition of a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
He made his team around him better. He won a championship. He was the best player on his team at a given point in time.
And he was a pro's pro.
And a pro's pro, exactly.
That plays more into part than what people may realize. Let's jump into our last real sports topic here.
Okay.
Let's talk about the NBA. We might as well just cap it off. Let's just give a little bit of thoughts, predictions, surprise surprise teams, maybe teams you don't think are going to do as well. So start us off, man. Other than, the obvious, let's not even get into the Cavs Warriors talk. Who, besides those two teams, do you even believe that there's other teams out there who can compete for a title this year?
Do I actually believe? No, I really don't. I think there's.
I agree. And it's a problem in the NBA, and a lot of people are going to disagree. NBA is the biggest star power league there is, but it's almost become sad because there's two teams who you honestly probably have a shot. There could be other teams who can give a team a run for their money, but at the end of the day, any gambling man out there is going to say Cavs, Warriors, NBA Finals. Let's just fast forward and get it done with.
I mean, and me mentally looking at this right now, right, looking out of the East, right, who is going to challenge LeBron, right? Do I think the Celtics with Al Horford coming in, and I know that they picked up give me 1 second because I haven't looked at this completely.
They got Paul Pierce for a day. That helps.
Paul Pierce for a day. Jaylen Brown, the rookie out of Cal, who's ultra athletic, small forward. Obviously, Isaiah Thomas coming off one of his best years as a pro. Kelly Olynyk. I think that the Celtics as an overall team, they remind me a lot of those 2000s Pistons teams where they're not going to have.
That's a perfect example. And the one thing that might scare me come trade deadline is I think the Celtics are the biggest player with cap room, draft picks, and young talent. I think they can go out there, and if there's a player who's out there on the trade block who's ready to go and win now,
yep.
Big star player, the Celtics are the player there.
Yep. And so looking at the East, as far as and maybe the Milwaukee Bucks, I'm really interested to see just exactly how that roster fits together. You all know about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Okay, we all know about him. The Greek Freak just signed a huge $100 million contract. Okay,
and he's still somehow underrated, which beats me.
He's 21 years old.
It's amazing. The guy's a freak.
He's 21, and I'm pretty sure if he reached out with his left hand to touch Milwaukee, he'd be able to touch me while I'm in Chicago. Okay, so I mean, I'm very interested to see how he plays. I'm interested to see how Thon Maker is. Okay, the rookie that had questions about his age going into the draft. He worked out and played in Canada last year at a prep school. He did not go to college, so he sat out his year in a prep school in Canada. I'm interested to see how he plays with Giannis. I don't really know how that's going to look. But you know what? I think I think they could potentially give the East some problems just with their sheer amount of length and how they're going to get up and down the floor. And they got your boy Matthew Dellavedova, of course. Okay, he's going to.
And I still hate how everybody dogs him. That he can play basketball.
I like Matthew Dellavedova.
He is a serviceable basketball player.
Nothing wrong with that. But
the money he's making is a little questionable, making like $6 million less a year than
we can talk
Steph Curry.
Yeah, that's a little bit. And then looking at the West, right? Let's look at the West.
A little bit more competition, but it's just still I don't see.
Is it really though? I mean,
star power wise, there's more star power in the West. We have to both agree there. But what team is going to give OKC a run from their money?
You mean the Golden State Warriors?
That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you start right there with the Oklahoma City Thunder. You wonder.
Even without KD, you still think that they can play?
I think Victor Oladipo is a good player. I think,
and I just think
Billy Donovan,
Russell Westbrook's going to step his game up to another notch. He's going to be the MVP this year. That is my prediction.
I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with Russ. Okay, I love Russ as a player, but we'll see what happens when he's the guy every single night. You're right. He may put up 40 and 40 every night. It may happen, but I like Victor Oladipo. I really, really like Steven Adams, but
Steven Adams really proved to be a dominant big man at the end of the year last year. He looks he belongs.
I'm not ready to say Steven Adams is the end-all, be-all of centers like Shaq.
Right, but there's not many great centers out there to begin with.
Well, there's none, basically. I mean,
so he's at the top of the crop. You know what I mean? He can play. He can play.
No, you're right about that. So they could give Golden State some problems, at least with their size, as we saw last year in the playoffs when they got up 3-1 against the Golden State Warriors. We saw that last year when they just beat them up physically. So we'll see that. And then my team that I'm going to love all season long is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Okay. Minnesota Timberwolves with Tom Thibodeau.
Great young team.
With Karl Anthony Towns, who I think could supplant LeBron James as the best player in the NBA by far. Okay. The kid can do absolutely everything. All right. We talk about there's no true center in the NBA. Well, that may be true. This kid can play back to the basket. He can stretch the floor a little bit with his side,
great mid-range
with his shot. He's hit 3-pointers, right? He can pass the ball. He can dribble the ball. I mean, this guy is what Anthony Davis should be and what Anthony Davis is not right now. Okay. And is not producing.
Good example. Okay. They have a absolute powerhouse when it comes to young talent.
Yeah.
The sky's the limit for that team.
You have Andrew Wiggins, obviously, who's a bit one-dimensional right now, but we'll see what happens. Still
so young.
21 years old. Okay. You have Chris Dunn, who's the rookie point guard out of Providence, probably the best.
Love him.
Point guard prospect coming out of the draft, true point guard prospects coming out of the draft. You still have Ricky Rubio, who knows how his knees are going to hold up. The kid really hasn't really had a really healthy season since he's been drafted in the NBA. So I want to see what's going to happen with him. And you have Zach LaVine, you have Gorgie Jang, you have Cole Aldrich, you have Adrian Payne, you have Nikola Pekovic, you have Brandon Rush, you have all these guys, Shabazz Muhammad, who's probably gone after the season, who could probably start on a lot of teams. So you have a lot of really young talent, and I'm just very interested to see how Tom Thibodeau coaches that ball team. I'm very interested to see what happens, really, because to me, Tom Thibodeau is probably a top 5 coach in the NBA to me, and I'm very interested to see how he molds that franchise and those pieces together, because I honestly think that the Timberwolves could potentially make it to the Western Conference Finals. I agree.
I think Tom Thibodeau is so comparable to the Cubs going out and getting Joe Madden. I think that is like the perfect comparison. Great young team, great coach. You put them both together, and let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what happens, man. Let's move into our next topic or our next segment, man. Let's talk a little bit of gaming. You know, let's talk some Madden and the new sets and the Journey set they just came out with. Did you see that?
Yep, I did see the Journey.
What do you think about that, man? What are your thoughts?
What my thoughts about the Journey? Okay, so it's so interesting to see how Madden has already flowed so much in the last. It's only been out for a month and a half. It came out at the end of August, and now we're at the beginning of of October. Very interesting to see. So initially we start off with not having a lot of solo challenges. People were complaining about that. People were complaining about non-auctionable, non-tradable players. All right. All of this.
And let me stop you real quick. And for those of you who may not know what we're talking about Madden on EA Sports Madden Football. We're talking about the
Madden
Ultimate Team.
Madden
Jesus
Ultimate
Christ,
Team, yeah.
The Madden Ultimate Team, where it's almost like a dynasty kind of thing with player cards. You kind of collect cards, put your team together. Very, very, very popular when it comes to sports gaming in the Twitch world. Very comparable to the Diamond Dynasty in baseball and the Hut in hockey and so on and so forth. So that's what we're talking about. But continue.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't play the NBA in my team. Okay. I don't want to. Too much money goes into Madden and MLB.
Yeah. So I mean, so to me, I think they did a good job addressing those needs that they had, that the people didn't have good ways to make a whole lot of coins, be able to kind of play with their teams. A lot of people don't want to play head to head. They want to play head to head with just their friends, and they want to still have good cards and have accessible cards. I will say this. Out of playing a lot of the kind of card collectible series from either the NHL or NBA or Madden or now Diamond Dynasty, I will say this. I think that Madden is by far the most accessible Ultimate Team mode, that you can gain a lot of good players for not spending any
money.
Okay, you can grind the auction house pretty well. You can do the
gauntlets.
You can do the gauntlets. You can open up farm accounts that you can do those gauntlets over and over again for money, for the coins. So I think it's the most accessible way to do that, and I hope it's a model that MLB The Show puts together with Diamond Dynasty, because honestly, I think Diamond Dynasty may be the most difficult one of all the different collectible card game modes in the video game series and sports games to actually really get a great team and grind up enough stubs in order for you to purchase players that you actually want. I think Madden does a very good job with putting out the content right now. People complained this year, early August, and now people are like, this whole new Madden game, it's completely different.
They stepped up their game. They absolutely stepped up their game as far as the ultimate team factor. But I still feel like they're just lacking something as far as Madden goes. There's something missing.
God, I agree. I agree too. And I think, and JV, we've talked about this. I think it's because Madden gameplay is so unpredictable and you don't control a lot of it. Okay. In a football game, you get to control one player at a time out of 11, right? Mm-hmm. In Madden or in MLB, it's all your skills. It's your skills against the other guy's skills. You're controlling the hitter, he's controlling the pitcher, right? It's literally human on human. For Madden, I'm dependent on the AI going through an algorithm, going through a loop, and telling me, oh, this guy is going to break said tackle this time, right? Or this guy is not going to break said tackle and he's going to get pancaked, right? I don't have any control over what the computer's doing. I'm totally and 100% reliant on EA Sports and what they've coded for that particular game, and I do not like that.
Now, and I think what a lot of people have grown frustrated with is, I don't want to say the ebooks, because the ebooks have been around for a long, long time, but it's the fact that a player can go out there and find one play on defense realistically and 3 plays on offense and absolutely put it to their opponent by just running 3 or 4 simple plays, to where you can almost just not outsmart the person, but just almost punk them in a way.
And it's funny because we're doing a connected franchise mode. And for those of you out there that are unfamiliar, that you basically JV Gaming, Jeff Fargo, obviously, and then P360 Gaming and King Beansy, all on Twitch. We're all in a connected franchise where we're all taking one team and we're playing an entire season with each other, right? And so we're doing that, and part of the connected franchise mode is that we have to play the computer for part of our schedule. We're all in one division, so we're able to play each other twice all year. But the other games we're going to have to play against the computer. And P360 was talking about, well, we're going to get used to the All Madden, which is the top level, the hardest mode within the game. He said we'll get used to it because we'll find plays that work against the computer. I don't want to do that. I don't want to the game. I don't want to find plays that
streak routes every play. I want to play real football. I want to
Yeah.
I wanted to play simulated, real strategic
Yeah.
football, and Madden's lost that element.
Yeah, I want to put a wildcat formation in and freak out the defense. I want to run a misdirection play when I've been running strong side plays all game. I want to run out routes. I want to run double moves. Has a double move ever worked in a Madden
No,
series?
no.
Ever?
And when's the last time you've played an online heads up game and you haven't seen the cover 3 90% of the time, where you can't do anything besides dink and dump the ball down the field?
Because you have to. You have to run a cover 3 or a cover 4. You want to run man to man? The man-to-man
Exactly.
And then the zone coverages. I know that they tweaked the zone coverages this year a little bit. They still don't play zone coverage,
No.
right? I've never ever seen once in an NFL game in which a guy literally sits in a zone the entire time and doesn't leave that zone. He stays in the
I
zone,
agree.
even when men are coming through it, or he needs to vacate the zone to go cover a route that's deeper than what he actually thought. All right. So I mean, that's the biggest frustration factor for me, is that I love football. Football is my probably number one sport that I love to watch. I love to analyze. I love to just think about. But it's disappointing that the replication factor of the game of football is so poorly done in EA right now. I just don't get it. So I just don't get it.
That's why MLB will always be the best game. Kappa. Anyways, let's move on to another topic here. Let's talk about what are you looking forward to the most game-wise. It doesn't have to be sports. It doesn't have to be a sports game, because mine isn't going to be a sports game. And I'll just go on and say mine right now.
Yours?
Battlefield 1. I've been looking forward to an old school shooter game
This is where
for
JB
so long.
tells me I need to
Listen,
spend more money. So
yes, you need to spend money. You need to go out and get Battlefield 1. I hope that Ricky Holbert and Eric Crow and you guys are all listening, because I know we're going to dig into this game. But man, I've been begging Call of Duty to do the whole World at War thing for so long, and then Battlefield came out and did Battlefield 1, and it's just like,
and JB,
fucking marry me.
Give me some context for the listeners out there that aren't familiar with the Battlefield series. Just give me a little bit of context about what Battlefield 1 is and what's so different about Battlefield 1 versus all the other ones. Just give me a little bit of context for those of us that aren't familiar with the series at all.
It's based off of like a World War One, a setting. It's old school. You know, you ain't running around on your damn jetpacks like you are in Call of Duty, running on walls, shooting lasers across the field. You know, it's actual, like, real World War. And I think that's, especially kids our age, the people our age, have really been looking for. I know a lot of my friends, we're just so sick of the new Call of Duties, and it's just less skill, less strategy, and more just, you know, if you're quicker and you're faster and your brain works better, you're going to be more, you know, successful. And I've just been looking for this whole World War, old school war kind of game. And I like the whole how Battlefield does it. You can play 32 on 32, a 64 player map. You got people flying in planes, rolling in tanks. Even in this game, they're going to be riding horses. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking to get away from the whole new Call of Duty thing, and it's just an exciting thing, and especially for EA to go out and try to trump, you know, what Call of Duty's doing. It's kind of a big deal.
Sure. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it sounds like a fun time. I will agree with you, the fact that, like, I remember back when I was a kid, my younger brother and I, the first game, the next gen gaming system we got was an original Xbox. All right, and the very first game that every kid played with the original Xbox was, of course, Halo. Right, and I hated Halo. Hated it. You know why? Because my little brother kicked my ass every single night in Halo. Okay, and I think that I still have scars because I hate first-person shooters. Still, I can't do it. I just don't like them. It freaks me out. I just don't like them anymore. Okay. Now, if I have people to play with, if I have friends to play with, like JV Gaming, I may be enticed to do that.
You're going to. You just don't know it yet, but you'll be buying.
And I will say this. So, to my favorite thing coming out, not anything new, but new to me, I downloaded and bought H1Z1 King of the Kill last week. Okay, Clutch Silver, a big streamer known on the MLB community, was playing a little bit last week. I was like, hey, you guys have room for me? I'm thinking about getting it. I had a little bit of Steam credit, so I bought King of the Kill. Tried it out. Have no idea what I'm doing, but had a blast because
it's so fun. It might be my worst game ever, but it is just so addicting, and the concept is beautiful. Yeah, beautiful concept.
Yeah, and so those of you who aren't unsure what the concept of H1Z1 King of the Kill is, it's essentially it's a third person shooter. Although you can play the game in first person if you want, but it's I think a bit frowned upon because it's not the best way to play it, right?
It's tough.
So essentially everyone spawns into a map together, and you have nothing at first, and you have to basically scrounge around the town. You're looking for guns, you're looking for bandages, you're looking for helmets, you're looking for armor. You can steal cars, blah 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 blah. And then your whole goal is to outlast every other human player within the map, right? And you can play this in teams, you can play this in duos, you can play it by yourself, or you can play it in fives where you have 5 people on your team and you're trying to survive together, right? And so I really love that concept of you have to work together, you got to hide. It's kind of like Walking Dead meets Hunger Games, okay?
Right.
Right?
Hunger Games is the best way to put it.
It's literally kind of a Hunger Games, but not weird because it's not real. Okay, we're not
right.
actually killing children. So it's what you may be tagging that noob out there, but it's a good time. I'm very happy. It was a good purchase on my end. I enjoyed it.
Now, I don't think it's available on next gen. Am I correct? Not a next gen game. I know it's something they're tinkering with, but if you look on Steam, man, you can get it now for about $15, maybe even less. But you do need a pretty decent CPU to play, and especially a keyboard and mouse. If you're thinking about playing this game on a laptop, no way. You could play, but you are going to be very frustrated within the first 15 minutes. I promise you that.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. So that's my whole thing right now. I think I'm a little bit in the, I wouldn't say a dead period, but I'm more or less content with my standardized rotation of MLB, NHL, NBA, and getting a little bit of MLB in there too. I'm pretty good with that rotation right now. And now the next thing I'm really going to be looking forward to is starting to get that initial content and that initial tidbits from the next MLB game, which I'm hoping we will start getting some, hopefully by the end of Christmas, right about the year. So
I think it's going to be a big year for MLB.
I think it's huge. I think it's going to be,
and that's pretty much where me and MSU make our living via Twitch, man. It was MLB. It's like how I made my, that's how I become successful in the Twitch world. It's just MLB, and it's unlike any other gaming community out there. For those of you guys who are involved with Twitch, it's just so tight knit. Everybody knows everybody. Any stream you go into in MLB, those people. I've made friends. That's how I met MSU. I met up with him in Chicago last week. So it's a good time. It's definitely a good time.
Yep, exactly, man. So I think we're going to start moving into the last segment of our show, which is going to be strictly fantasy football.
Fantasy. Okay. And for those of you guys who want to call in, don't mean to cut you off. If you guys have any fantasy questions, go ahead and hit us with the call now. 646-558-8656. And the caller ID is on the homepage of Scorespace. Yep. ID 605-977-832. Go ahead and hit us with a call in. We'll take that call. Any fantasy questions, go ahead and call now. Yep. But go ahead, man. Let us know what you think.
100%. I think the biggest thing for me right now, let's first start off with just where are we at in our fantasy lives ourselves, okay? I think that's the biggest thing to help our listeners really figure out what to do with their own teams and what's going on with their own selves. So for me, I have 2 teams. They're both 12-team leagues. They're both super flex leagues. So if you're unsure of what a super flex league means, it's basically the flex position is replaced with an offensive skill position, so either a quarterback, running back, or wide receiver. So most of the time you're starting 2 quarterbacks in that league. I'm starting 3 wide receivers, and I'm starting 2 running backs, and that's exactly the same for both my leagues. The one league is standardized scoring, no PPR, 4 points per passing touchdown, 6 points for a rushing or receiving touchdown. My other league has a half-point PPR addition to that, but I also start 3 wide receivers. So I differ a little bit from a standard league where you're looking at a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex. I'm a little bit different than most. With 3 wide receivers, it really, really eats at your depth as far as what waiver options are available for you on a weekly basis for that skill set. Right now, both of my leagues, I'm 3-2. My one league, I started off 0-2. I've rattled off 3 straight wins. I feel
Big time.
I feel pretty good about the team. My quarterbacks in that league are a little bit weak. I start Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota every week because I waited on quarterbacks, which was always been my strategy in fantasy football. I always believe you can pick up a waiver option.
I would have guessed that by the first monologue you had.
That's going to be. You can find a guy like Brian Hoyer who's going to go score you 20 points a week,
who has outplayed Aaron Rodgers in every statistical category up to this point of the year. Brian Hoyer.
You can find a quarterback one every single week for the most part, unless like my league, every single starter's owned right now. Every single quarterback starters besides Case Keenum is owned in my league on someone's roster. So I'm starting those two. So that's kind of I'm worried about that. But I have Bell and Christian Michael. Those are my two running backs, so I feel really good about that. I'm very confident. My wide receivers in that league are Odell Beckham Jr., I have Dez Bryant, I have Demaryius Thomas, I have Terrell Pryor, and I actually just picked up Tyler Lockett. My tight end is Kyle Rudolph, and then I stream a defense and a kicker for most weeks because I don't believe in truly elite defenses unless you have the Vikings, unless you have the Broncos or the Seahawks. I stream every single week to try and find the matchup that works.
I agree.
So that's
whoever's playing the Browns.
So that's my one league, and then the other league is a half-point PPR. And again, I went similar strategies. I waited on quarterbacks. I have the only big difference really between the two leagues is that the quarterbacks I have are Carson Wentz and Matthew Stafford. So I got I'm playing the matchups and actually have Sam Bradford on the bench in that league too. So 3-2 in those leagues. I feel confident about my league in which I have Bell and Michael because I feel like I'm basically going to be a plus matchup every single week in the running back position. I feel okay about my wide receivers as soon as Dez Bryant, which Dez Bryant could be returning this week for those of you who may have him. He's been practicing limited for the last 2 days. He's coming off what people have been reporting as a hairline fracture in the tibial bone of his leg. I've been following a couple of guys on Twitter. They don't believe that's actually what the injury had. They thought he had actually a bone bruise. And so people are thinking that it wasn't actually a tibial fracture, so he may be coming back. So I'm feeling good about my receiving core if Dez is coming back. Demaryius Thomas is basically putting up a goose egg for me tonight. That's a totally different story. So that's kind of my big picture for my leagues right now. JV, if you want to kind of tell listeners how many leagues you're in, maybe give a rundown, what's going on with them.
I'm in too many leagues. That's the issue. I'm too friendly. I got so many people on Twitch asking me to join this league, join that league, but I'm in two major leagues that are for a lot of money and that I've been in for years. Okay.
Oh, wow.
One is Rachel's work league.
Yep.
Okay. ESPN, PPR, 12-team league, and I'm running out here. So I'll just go down the lineup. I got Eli Manning and Blake Bortles at quarterback, so that's just pretty much matchup-wise.
Yep.
But then the strong suit of my offense, I got David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell. Okay, those were my back-to-back picks. That's just absolute killer. And then wide receivers, we got Doug Baldwin, Emmanuel Sanders, Delaney Walker, and then for what I think is going to be the steal of the draft, Sammy Coates at my flex this week.
Ooh, I don't know about that. We'll talk about that.
And on the bench, I got Jonathan Stewart with an injury, Joseph Ajayi, Philip Dorsett, Tajee Sharp, and Eddie Royal. I don't really have many running backs on the bench, but with Le'Veon Bell and David Johnson, I really don't need them at this point.
What's
not doing too bad. Yeah, not doing too bad. 4-1.
4-1. Okay.
So good start here. But then we'll go to my my other league, and this isn't a league with all my buddies who we've been doing since high school, man. And it's just been a bad start, and I wasn't expecting it. I'm coming off the championship from last year.
Yep.
Won it last year. This is going to be an auction draft though, so it's a 14-team auction draft, half-point PPR, super flex. So I got Aaron Rodgers, Matt Jones, who I was so high on coming into the year, and he's just big fart noise for me. Matt Forte at running back, who's played well. LeGarrette Blount, another running back. And then where I'm really weak is at wide receiver. I got Stephon Diggs, Deshaun Jackson, Sammy Watkins, who's hurt,
Oh,
Quincy Enunwa, Allen Hurns, and Brandon LaFell, and just absolute struggle bus as far as wide receivers go.
so Quincy Enunwa, I mean, this is a put up or shut up game this week. Started off hot the first 2 games.
Yeah,
Let me grab the stats on him because I actually contemplated picking him up, but I wasn't sure that he was
he's just seeing so many targets in
targets.
clutch situations is what is surprising me. It's almost like he is slowly but surely taking over that Eric Decker role in a way.
Decker went on,
Except for the red zone. And the red zone is still Eric Decker. It's every year it's Eric Decker in the red zone.
he's on the IR for the rest of the year. They put him on
Yes.
IR yesterday.
So the hope
IR.
is that Quincy Enunwa just slides right in and takes those same red zone targets.
I mean, look if you look at it, right? You're getting for Quincy Enunwa 8 targets, 7 receptions, 54 yards, and a touchdown for week 1. No one was starting him. Then he had 6 for 6. 92 yards in that Thursday night game. That was absolute shootout, 37-31 with Buffalo, the start of Thursday night football. And then the next week, the Kansas City game, in which that was the pick-6 game.
Yeah, at Kansas City.
I don't say pick-6. I mean 6 interceptions thrown by Ryan. Okay, he had 11 targets for 4 receptions, 37 yards. Then 2 weeks ago, 7 targets, 6 receptions for 60 yards. 7 targets, 4 receptions for 51 yards. So not terrible. Obviously, the targets are awesome. The fact that Eric Decker just went on the IR is huge. I think Quincy Enunwa, Brandon Marshall obviously is going to get his. He's going to be dominating the target percentage, getting that 30% share that you're looking for a wide receiver number 1. But I think Quincy Enunwa, I think you'll be satisfied with him for the next couple weeks because Ryan Fitzpatrick is not as bad as he looked this year. He's not as bad. He's been forced into bad situations because he's been down. There hasn't been a game in which
they haven't really played with the lead. Rarely this year.
Okay, so I can't feel bad for him. He's thrown like 6. I saw today. He's thrown like 6 interceptions when he's been down by 14 or more points.
And a lot of them have been on one-on-one plays where he's getting unlucky and his wide receivers are getting outplayed. He's thrown a lot of balls downfield where they've been picked off compared to last year where Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker were just making those plays. So
100%.
He's not. A lot of them aren't mistakes. Just a lot of them are mishaps.
And let's talk about Sammy Coates for a minute because that was a pretty polarizing figure to this past week in fantasy. A lot of people were rushing to the waiver wire to go and pick him up.
I love it.
Sammy Coates, okay. He's really the number 2 on the opposite side of Antonio Brown, and that high-powered, high-flying Pittsburgh Steelers offense is putting up points at a remarkable pace this year, okay. To me, I think everyone needs to pump the brakes on him, okay, just a little bit. We have yet to see Le'Veon Bell score a touchdown. Le'Veon Bell is averaging 9 targets a game for the last 2 weeks. He's essentially a wide receiver right now. This past week against the Jets actually got 11 targets, saw more yardage in the passing game against a stout front 7 from the Jets. I'm very interested to see what Sammy Coates does in the upcoming weeks with Bell. Eli Rogers was coming off injury, is back at practice. It's interesting to see what happens with Eli Rogers. Sammy Coates' hands are absolutely horrible. I have no idea. If you saw him last week, dropped a wide open pass.
Wide open.
In the end zone.
He is definitely their deep play target. That is the thing.
It looked like a Madden play where there's a force field around his hands and he immediately dropped it. Okay. So Sammy Coates, well, I think will probably give you good return for a waiver wire pickup. I would absolutely sell high on him right this instant. If you
I would agree.
Actually do it, because there's probably someone in your league that's looking at Sammy Coates, that's looking at their wide receivers, they're looking at that offense, and they're going, I might want to have Sammy Coates. But I think you got the best game. The best game he just gave you was this past week. I don't think he tops the point production that he had this past week ever again this season. I think he's a wide receiver 3. I think he's looking at about a 50 to 55-yard floor every single week with potential to give you that big old boom play. But I think more often than not, you're going to get a bust from Sammy Coates. So if I'm anyone out there, I'm trying to flip him for someone down on their luck, whether it's a Stephon Diggs, whether it's a Dez Bryant, whether it's a package deal for Odell Beckham Jr. Okay. So I'm just saying, if you can potentially try and throw him away for something that you feel like you're getting better dollar for, by all means, go and do it. I do not think you will be kicking yourself at the end of the season that, man, I let Sammy Coates go. He is not Martavis Bryant. Don't think he is. He is not going to repeat what Martavis Bryant did last year or the year before that, when he absolutely came out of nowhere and dominated and won people their fantasy championships.
I agree. Let's talk about a little bit of must play and must fades this week for fantasy football. Anybody you have on your mind who you would absolutely start, and a name out there that you think many people are starting and you would say stay away?
So the biggest name I'm going to say is I'm absolutely 100% playing Le'Veon Bell this week. Even if I'm doing daily fantasy this week, he's probably the most expensive running back in whatever daily fantasy play you're looking at. He's going against Miami Dolphins team, who was absolutely atrocious on defense.
Horrid.
Absolutely horrible. I don't know. You just saw DeMarco Murray had a great game. Didn't get the touchdowns because it was Mariota's game this past week. I think this is a get-right game for Le'Veon Bell. Not that he needs to get right, but the fact is that Le'Veon Bell has yet to score a touchdown yet and is averaging 150 yards a game in both rushing and receiving. Okay, this is the game he scores 3 touchdowns and has.
Yeah, I think the Pittsburgh honchos make it an effort to let him see the end zone.
He needs to see the end zone. The first game back, I mean, good God, D'Angelo Williams rifles a touchdown from him when he rushes a beautiful 46-yard play right down to the 1-yard line.
Pissing every fantasy football.
And then they're like, well, why don't you take it from here? Because Le'Veon can't do it, right? Are you kidding me? Le'Veon Bell, for me, is the absolute start of the week for me in daily fantasy plays. It doesn't matter if you're playing for cash, if you're playing in contests, you're playing Le'Veon Bell this week in daily fantasy. If you have him on your redraft leagues, you're killing it, okay?
Agree.
Enjoy having Le'Veon Bell. Okay, that's my take on Le'Veon Bell this week. As far as a guy that I'm looking to fade that I believe may have a tough matchup, right? I think the biggest one I'm probably looking at is, let's see. There was one I was definitely. I think it's probably David Johnson. If you have the opportunity to sit David Johnson this week, I would think about sitting David Johnson. And here's why. The front seven of the Jets is absolutely outstanding. Muhammad Wilkerson, okay, you have Leonard Williams on the outside. I know the defense, the secondary for the Jets is poor. Carson Palmer is going to look to air it out this week. David Johnson really doesn't catch a lot of passes, okay? So if I have a chance to play, if I picked up Jordan Howard, I'm playing Jordan Howard this week over David Johnson.
I agree.
I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds insane. You probably spent a back-end first-round draft pick on David Johnson, and you're like, I'm not going to sit him, but he's going against the Jets. It's on Monday Night Football. He doesn't catch a lot of passes. Arizona's going to be looking to try and get Michael Floyd going, looking to get John Brown going, looking to get Larry Fitzgerald, the guy who Father Time cannot seem to catch up with. Okay, he's going to air it out. I think that David Johnson is a guy, for me personally, I'm trying to get away with. Another guy that I'm probably trying to get away with is Cam Newton, Carolina, going against a dream matchup with New Orleans. Everyone's going to say, start Cam Newton, start him. I'm afraid of what Cam Newton looks like this week, okay? I'm afraid that after the big hit against Atlanta, he's gotten his brain beat in this year so far.
I agree.
Okay.
And the return of Jonathan Stewart. I think they're going to try to make it an emphasis to run the ball.
And you know what? You can run the ball against New Orleans because you know what? New Orleans does nothing. Okay. On defense, they stand there in the mud. They don't do anything. Okay.
And they have for the last 5 years.
If you're in daily fantasy plays, I think you try and stay away from Cam Newton. Obviously, in season-long redrafts, I would say you're probably going to have to start him because odds are you probably don't have a backup. But if you can potentially look to grab someone, I would suggest maybe a Brian Hoyer against Jacksonville, right? I would probably suggest a Brock Osweiler against Indianapolis Colts. I think that's a good play there too, just by the sheer amount of volume. And by that game, probably going to be a shootout because both defenses are suffering in that game. But in daily fantasy, I'm absolutely 100% staying away from Cam Newton this year. Way too expensive and is not going to give you the value that you should be getting or should be looking for in your daily fantasy plays.
I agree. I'm going to move on to my pick, and I think my must play, and I know this better than anybody, just based upon what I've seen, and that is Delaney Walker, tight end, Tennessee Titans against the Cleveland Browns.
Love it. Love it.
Defense. The last 2 weeks, the Cleveland Browns have given up 5 touchdowns to tight ends in just 2 weeks. And then the week before that, they played Miami. Jordan Cameron got hurt. Their tight end situation was kind of a debacle. But the week before that, Dennis Pitta threw 10 receptions, 130 yards on the Cleveland Browns defense. If I'm playing daily fantasy football, any kind of fantasy, I don't care what it is. If it has a football in it, I would start Delaney Walker. I think he goes off in Tennessee. Mariota's definitely going to be looking for him in the red zone, especially with poor play from Taji Sharp, who hasn't really come up and played like everybody thought he would. I think he's really their only red zone target, and I think he's going to find the end zone not just once, but at least 2 times this week against the Browns.
And for those of you thinking about potentially playing a Marcus Mariota and being afraid that because the Browns, unfortunately, JV, are so bad that you think that they're going to dominate, this is going to be a DeMarco Murray type of game. And the 2 blowouts that Marcus Mariota has had in his career, week 1 last year, and then this past week, in which a blowout I considering 14 or more points between them. Marcus Mariota has had his 2 best fantasy games of his career. So do not be concerned about starting Marcus Mariota this week. He's going to be fine. If you want to play him, I suggest you play him, and he will deliver for you. Okay. So anyone thinking about a potential a budget beast, I would suggest Marcus Mariota for daily fantasy. If you're thinking about one of those starters in a redraft league, I would suggest potentially trying to pick up a Marcus Mariota and play him against the Browns. His rushing totals, he had the most rushing yards of the season last year. I think he ran for 60 yards and a score. I think that Mularkey has figured it out on how he needs to get and make his quarterback play better. He does much better in Oregon-style based rolling the pocket on the run sort of movement. I think they kind of figured it out last week. It was a get-right game against Miami. I think he has another get-right game against Cleveland. And quite honestly, his schedule sets up absolutely beautiful at Indianapolis at home and Jacksonville at home the following week. You can potentially pick him up and play him for the next 3 weeks. So Marcus Mariota, a very good value for redraft and daily fantasy.
And then my fade, man. I think my fade, and this is based upon because I think he's going to be so highly owned, especially in DFS leagues. Sammy Coates. I would fade the Sammy Coates this week because of what you said. Everybody's going to be on him, and I think they are going to make it a huge emphasis to give Le'Veon Bell the ball and let him find the end zone this week. So I would fade. I would absolutely fade the Sammy Coates. Don't hop on that bandwagon this week just because the price is down on him and he's coming off a huge week. He's going to be highly owned, and especially if you're playing tournament games, it's just a guy I would not play.
Yeah.
100%. What do you think?
No, I agree, especially in daily fantasy. I think if you picked him up in season-long redrafts, you're playing Sammy Coates as a wide receiver 3, a low-end boomer bust wide receiver 2, right. Potentially a flex option if you have him. I would try and stay away from him as much as I possibly could, but I think that a lot of people are going to be in a tough situation where they're dealing with a Keenan Allen injury or potentially a Dez Bryant being out or any other situation in which they need a flex player. I think it's okay for you to play Sammy Coates, but just don't be expecting him to go for 640 and a score this week.
If Sammy Coates is available in any league out there that you guys are in, he is a definite pickup. Pick him up, because if we're not saying don't pick him up in a fantasy, if Le'Veon Bell gets it going on the running game, Antonio Brown's going to be double covered almost every single possession. He is a guy who's going to see the ball if he surpasses Eli Rogers for that definite slot / kind of hybrid and middle of the field role. You can find a lot of value with him, especially from about week 8 or on.
Yep, exactly. 100% agree. So be very interesting. Anyone that's out there right now, if you want to give us a call, please do. We're willing, if you have starter sit questions, if you want us to grade the trade, if you're looking at a waiver option, give us a call. We're more than happy to share our knowledge and mess up your team essentially, because who knows what's actually going to happen. This is all fantasy, so anything can happen this weekend. But please do call in if you want us to give you our best advice we possibly can. You can call in.
What else, man? You want to talk? I want to kind of, since we have, just a little bit more time here, I want to jump back into, real quick, our college football rankings, our top 4, and then, the 2 who are kind of sitting there, looking into the playoff bids, but may get stumped at the end. Who's your top four right now, and who are your two looking in?
My top four, and I will preface this with I'm a huge Michigan State guy. Michigan State's obviously taking a huge step back this year, which is what I expected from losing so much on offense, losing an NFL caliber starter and quarterback in Connor Cook. I've expected that, but I haven't paid attention as much as I possibly can to college football. Middle of October, beginning of November is when I really start to peer into this stuff and really get down to the crunch time. But right now, my top four. Alabama, I think they're great on defense. They're great on offense. I think the quarterback and Jalen Hurts. We're waiting for him to be a freshman. He's a true freshman.
He hasn't done it yet.
You're waiting for him to be a freshman. And you're just hoping to God that the freshman doesn't come out in a time that you absolutely need it not to come out. And Saban has proven over and over again that he gets the best out of the players that he can. He prepares his teams like they're pro style teams. Okay. But at some point he's going to be a freshman, and I'm just wondering when that's going to be. Is it going to be in this next gauntlet, the next two games, up and coming against Texas A&M? I'm not sure. We will see. Really, my next team is Ohio State. JT Barrett. Ohio State. OHIO. Yep.
Yes, sir.
They are the guys. Honestly, last year
it's amazing what they're doing.
Last year, when they started Cardale Jones, I had no idea. I watched JT Barrett 2 years ago in person, absolutely decimated Michigan State secondary. That was very, very good, throwing bombs left and right. I think JT Barrett is honestly a pro quarterback. I think that offense is great. I think the defense is great. They've played a tough schedule right now. They're not afraid. They're going to get tested in the Big Ten with Wisconsin this weekend. They're going to get tested going on the road against Michigan State, who obviously were not that good, but still it's going on the road. You're going to be playing Michigan. I think right now they are definitely playing at a level that is competitive against Alabama. And when is the last time Alabama lost? Alabama lost to Ohio State in the college football playoffs 2 years ago with Cardale Jones going absolutely ham against the Alabama defense. So I don't
defensive linemen,
legitimately running over people. Okay, so the next team I have is Washington. I'm not a West Coast bias type of person. I love this team. They play great. They never ever do anything besides rush four. They're four guys on the line of scrimmage, get to the quarterback. They play great defense. No one likes the way they play because they play the game the right way. Love Washington. Love their quarterback. Think that they have all the making. That schedule adds up really well for them. I think they're in the playoff. Okay. And then my last team right now, Texas A&M. And you're probably thinking, well, Texas A&M, Alabama, they're playing this weekend. So we're going to find out which one I think is actually better. Texas A&M, I think, is a great team. I think being in the SEC helps them out. Obviously, these teams in the SEC are going to get weeded out. I think we could potentially have a case in which two teams from one conference end up in the college football playoff, but that's kind of a thing to be said later on. And then my last team looking out the outside looking in right now is the University of Michigan. It pains me to say that. They're playing phenomenal football. Jim Harbaugh, absolutely great coach.
And you know what surprises me, and I don't mean to cut you off, MSU,
yeah, no problem.
Is he's doing that with a lot of seniors who were not recruited by him. He has gotten a lot of production out of guys that aren't his guys.
Yep.
And I think that just goes to show you how great of a coach he is compared to the guy he took over for.
Yep, 100%. So I think University of Michigan with Jabril Peppers. Obviously, Jabril Peppers, a lot of people say is overrated, but to me, the guy does a little bit of everything on both sides of the ball. I think that defense is really good. I think the offense is coming together. I think being well coached is enough said there. I'm very, very interested to see what happens at the end of the year with Ohio State versus U of M. Obviously, one of those teams is not going to end up in the Big Ten championship. Is it going to drop them enough in the polls? Because I expect both those teams to be undefeated when they meet. Will that one loss push them far enough down where they're not going to have a shot at being in the college football playoff? I am unsure. But right now, just looking at the big landscape of college football, those are my four guys and the one team that is on the outside looking in. So, JV, take it away. What is your take on this? What are you looking at as far as your power rankings right now?
All right, so I'm going to get the bias talk here because I'm from Ohio and I'm an Ohio State fan, but I'm going to go Ohio State number one solely because of the reason I think Jalen Hurt is going to he's going to have a freshman game. I don't see that team going undefeated. He's going to hit the road. He's going to be down. He's going to be trailing, and there's going to be a hiccup. Maybe not. Maybe Nick Saban, gets it done. Maybe they go undefeated. I just don't see that team going undefeated, especially playing the SEC. And honestly, I just think, Ohio State's quarterback play puts them at number one. I think JT Barrett is the best quarterback out of the top six teams. The top six teams I'm going to put in here, I'm going to take JT Barrett over everybody else. But followed right behind Ohio State, I'm going to have Alabama at number two. What Nick Saban does is just unbelievable. Everybody he lost on defense, just plug and go. They're the New England Patriots of college football, man. Yep. And number three, I'm going to have Michigan. Just the way that they're not just beating their opponents, they are absolutely demolishing them. And I feel really bad for Michigan State fans this week because I think Coach Harbaugh is on a collision course to just absolutely run the score up on Michigan State.
They may hang 100 on us when we play.
Because I think Michigan needs to get that respect, and they haven't beaten the Ohio State, the Michigan State. They haven't beaten that big team yet. Yep. The arch rivals, and I think they're going to set a statement this week that hey, we're here and we're for real. I think Michigan's going to absolutely roll Michigan State this week, and if whatever the spread is, take Michigan because I'm assuming Coach Harbaugh is just going to run the score. And number four, man, I got Washington. Watching that game last week was unbelievable. That crowd, that atmosphere, I didn't think that happened in Washington. I don't know about you. I watched that game. It was spectacular. I felt like I was watching an Oregon game, a primetime Oregon game, except they play a more pro-style offense
wonderful
than Oregon, and it's really fun to watch, especially being Big Ten fans like we are, man. That looked like a Big Ten team. It's just a smaller version. But that was great football. I think Washington is the team at number four, and I really, especially with the way their schedule is going to set up, man, they're going to be there. They control their own destiny. They're in as long as they don't have a hiccup. And on the outside looking in, I'm with you on the Texas A&M bandwagon. They're playing really good football. Defense is just outstanding, and the quarterback play that they're getting from the Oklahoma transfer has been beautiful. And then the team right outside, I would put it number six. Obviously could change this week. I'm still high on the Wisconsin train. And I'm just going off of not the top six teams I think they're going to be there at the end of the year. I think the top six teams who are playing the best football right now. It was tough. It was tough for me to fade on the Louisville thing considering they lost at Clemson last second. But that Wisconsin defense, who was the best in college football last year, doesn't look like they're missing a beat.
He's
something special.
Electric.
Something special. He started off really slow in the first half last week, or 2 weeks ago, and he showed why he is one of the better players in football. So I'm going to say a little bit of a mixture for the sixth best team, man. It's got to be Louisville, Wisconsin. Yep. Wisconsin's defense is just unbelievable. And MJ is going to love me for that, but and I'm a believer.
I thought they played their worst game of the season, unfortunately, at the worst time against Michigan.
At the worst time. They have a really good chance of making up for it this week.
I agree. I think
hosting Ohio State.
It's going to be a great game. I'm really looking forward to that. That's one of the biggest games of the week that I'm obviously looking forward to. So I'm looking forward to all that. But I think, we're running a little bit long. I think we're gonna end the first episode of the Real Take right now. JV, do you have anything you want to kind of wrap up with? Thoughts, things you're looking forward to this weekend? Anything really? Just give me some of your wrap up thoughts, and then I'll share mine. We'll wrap this thing up.
Not much, man. I just think we need to enjoy what we're watching right now in baseball because we're going to be in for a treat. I was just looking at the score, and it looks like the Dodgers actually took the lead in that game. Yep. So we're setting up for a pretty good, championship series here. Good college football games this week, especially here in the Big Ten. Ohio State at Wisconsin. I'm excited about that. And obviously the Cleveland Indians tomorrow. I think that's a huge game. I think winner of game one of that series is probably going to take the series completely.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm looking forward to finishing up and watching this baseball game, seeing how it turns out. I'm very, very excited to see how Week 6 shakes out in the NFL. I'm shocked right now to watch San Diego basically beat the crap out of Denver on both sides of the field. Very, very, very surprising. Unsure of what to think about this actually, because I didn't really think San Diego was a very good team, and I had.
Have you seen the stat though? San Diego's been leading in the
Yep.
final couple minutes of almost every single game they've played this year.
Yeah, they've had like I saw they had a 95% win probability at some point in every game
of the game. Yeah,
so
that's nuts.
Very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing the Giant, or not the Giants, the Green Bay, the Dallas at Green Bay game. Very excited about that game, and I'm kind of interested to see what the Bengals at New England does. First game back for Tom Brady at Gillette Stadium. Will he throw 10 touchdowns? Will he drink avocado milk and avocado ice cream? I mean, I really am unsure about what exactly is going to happen, but I'm afraid for the Bengals because they just got their crap pushed in by that Dallas offensive line. I'm very afraid to see what happens when you're going against an angry Tom Brady and an angry Bill Belichick at Gillette Stadium for the first time. So, yeah, that's all I'm looking forward to. JV, this was a good time, man.
Did you have fun?
I had a lot of fun, man.
Were you nervous when you woke up this morning, or did you have like it's a Christmas morning feeling? Because I had a Christmas morning feeling, and then once it hit past noon, I was like,
man,
oh shit.
I wasn't really nervous. I felt fairly prepared. I'm a very prepared type of person. So, when you're prepared, being nervous is just when you have lack of preparation. So that's what I always say.
See, I was prepared coming into this. In the first 45 seconds, I was nervous as hell.
So I think I had a lot of fun. It was a good time, guys. We want to thank you guys for being here on Twitch simulcast. We want to thank everyone listening out there, either on mobile or on scorespace.org. We are The Real Take. I'm MSV Fanatic with JV Gaming. We're going to be back next week at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. Looking forward to being here talking about breaking down week 6 of the NFL. We'll have a little bit of NBA. We'll probably get into a couple other topics here and there. We'll have a really clear picture of what's going on in the ALCS and the NLCS. So we'll be definitely talking about that sort of stuff. So for me, MSU Fanatic, thank you so much. Appreciate y'all being here. Thank you again. JV.
Social media plugs, man. Plug your social media.
Social media. You can follow me at MSU_fanatic88 on Twitter. And then I'm MSU Fanatic on Twitch. Please check it out. You can see it if you're on the overlay on our right-hand side. JV, take it from here and close this out, man.
Like I said, guys, had a really, really, really good time. A lot of fun. Something I've been wanting to do for years. Like I said, this is our first show ever. This is not anything we have ever done before. So we appreciate the support. Our producer told me we hit the almost 400 mark on viewers and listeners on the radio. That is not including Twitch. Yep. Very impressive. I'm very excited about that. My social medias, you guys can find me at twitch.tv/Josh_Vargo. And then for Twitter, pretty much the same thing, except it's going to be JV_gaming with 2 G's, because there's somebody out there, and I'm going to find them, who took JV Gaming. So I had to add the extra G. I had to be that guy. But like I said, guys, I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you guys next week. MLB talk.
Let's just give a plug. Tomorrow we got Snake Doctor on Flashback Fridays, right? We got the Out of Bounds podcast, which is on Wednesdays at 9 Eastern with Livin 5110 and Cubs Fan 004. We got the Knockout on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. Check that out too. And then obviously you got us, The Real Take, on Thursdays to really wrap up the week of the sports knowledge and everything else. So really appreciate it, guys. And thank you so much.
Yes, guys. Take care. Peace out.
Peace.